Hey, how's it going? All right, anybody should be able to speak. Yeah, I see you there, Extremes. It was nice to see you in Miami. Would be good to talk about some of the NFT stuff on XRPL.
Hey, what's up?
Not too much, just trying to do my daily thing here and help people learn about this stuff. So there's definitely a lot to learn.
Yeah.
I think I've invited everyone to speak if they want to. It's funny how these things go, and all of a sudden a bunch of people pop on.
Yeah, this is always the same.
It's like I'm sitting here for a few minutes, and then all of a sudden everybody shows up.
Yeah.
Were you, I forget, I met you at Miami, didn't I?
No, you met here, Jebsy from X Rooms.
Okay.
Yeah, he's also here, I think, right now. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a couple guys that I met there.
Yeah. You were also there, right?
Yeah. It was fun.
Okay. Yeah, I was on the live stream from who was it? On-chain, Jeff and Chip.
Yeah, they were there. That was cool. I hadn't. I've never really watched. That's not totally true, but I don't watch their show like routinely. I was watching one of their shows earlier today.
Yeah.
But yeah, it looks like they do a good job.
Yeah, they definitely do. Like, I noticed that quite a lot of people actually, like, it's not meant in a bad way, but quite a lot of people actually do watch them regularly, right? And yeah, so
yeah, I was
especially
watching
Matt as well. Like, he's also pretty much always in the chat or whatever when they do live streams. I've noticed that.
Yeah, he's joined these a couple of times. I'm really irritated. One of these things, I'm having a hard time getting these things recorded. But one of them, one time he joined, and we had a great discussion about a lot of stuff that several people had questions, and the freaking, I have to have an extra app to record these things. And I don't know why Twitter, they say you can record them, but I can't figure out where or how. Where the option is. I feel like I've looked through everything.
Really? Because I thought that you could in-app record them, like, I think for up to 1 hour or 2 hours. I'm not sure, like, not 100% sure, but I thought it was in-app, actually. Yeah.
They say it is. I mean, I've read that. I can't find it. I don't know if you have to be, like, more popular, more followers, more people attending. I don't know. I bought an extra app that I run in parallel just to get the recording.
Huh. Yeah. Well, I think that would do the trick as well, right?
Yeah. Well, the app's not that good. It's I've just in the last couple, the first couple, I think it was fine. The last couple, it's like you can be speaking in the middle of a sentence, it'll cut out half a word, or it's like the I don't know if like the service can't keep up or something. But there's not a lot of options, honestly. I tried several others that didn't even work because you can't. Most of the record on your phone apps will not record while you're on Twitter or on a phone call or something like that. Like, they won't record over another app.
I gotcha. Okay. Now that's kind of weird, right?
Yo, can you guys hear me?
Yeah. Hey, what's up?
What's up, Vet? Karma, it was great to meet you in Miami.
Yeah, you as well. I had a lot of fun there.
Yeah, that event went pretty well, I'd say. Even though we hit a little traffic going there, but Miami's crazy with that. Literally, you drive 5 miles and it took us 40 minutes.
I was only probably 15, 20 miles away up in Fort Lauderdale, and it was like 45 down, and like, at least at night it was like 25 back.
Got it. Yeah, we came over the bridge from South Beach, I think it's called. Yeah. So what's up, guys? If anybody has any questions, my name's Jebsy from X Rooms. Just hopping on the mic. I have an NFT project built on the XRP ledger. And yeah.
Yeah, I've got questions. I mean, anything you can explain about the so I know on XRP chat I started the conversation about how to do NFTs and like black hole a wallet and issue the minimum like non-divisible, the lowest decimal. And then I think I saw Wheatsy already had some kind of a standard set up. And then apparently there's a new standard possibly coming for NFTs on XRP Ledger.
Yeah, correct. You're asking about the XLS20 standard?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, so pretty much it makes it more efficient for the user and the artist, I guess you could say, or whomever is minting NFTs, so it could go past art. So pretty much how it's set up right now is 2 XRP is locked per trust line, and that's how NFTs are correlated as a trust line currently. So if you wanted to hold 30 NFTs, then you would have to lock up 60 XRP. So because 60 times or 30 times 2. But with the new proposal coming on the ledger, which is XLS20D, first it has to go to, I could be a little mistaken, so don't quote me on this, test some developer testing network, and then it goes to like main developers, and then after that it's voted on by validators, and then that's when it goes live on the ledger. So what that incorporates is NF token page, and then NF token offer. So there's 3 things with it, and essentially the NF token page is the bigger part of that.
Can you mute your mic if you're not talking? Because I think maybe one of the recording problems is like feedback.
Is it coming out of my mic?
No, I'm trying to figure out how to make the recordings a better quality, because it's really annoying when you're listening to it again and it skips people's words.
Got it. If anything, I guess anything skips, let me know and I could repeat it. But with the NF token page, essentially that you're allowed up to 32 NFTs per quote unquote trust line. I think I'm a little bit off with that. NFTs aren't going to be incorporated in trust lines anymore, but I think the token page is going to act like a trust line. So that's where you could have 32. So going back to the math wise, if you wanted to lock up, let's say now 60 NFTs, it would only cost you 4 XRP to be held. Because you'll have two pages. Yeah.
Is the page like a new type of object on the ledger? And then under that, trust lines? Okay.
Yeah, it's a new structure. So it's on GitHub too. If you could even go on Google and search XLS20D GitHub, and the first one that pops up, it's the whole proposal from Nick, and then with the authors David and a couple of other people. Right there, if you scroll down a little bit, it has the 3 main objects that's being added. So that's the quote unquote NF token is one, and then the NF token page, which is the structure that allows you to have up to 32 per page, and then the third one is the NF token offer. So that's where you could buy, sell, essentially transact it on the ledger.
Say that one more time. So there's actually 3 new objects?
The 3 objects. I don't know if they're all new. I'm not entirely sure if like NF token is from like XOS 14D, because you have the NFTs on the ledger, but those are the three main structure pieces of the proposal. Here, I'm going to grab my laptop because I left the room real quick, and then I could better talk about this. 1 second.
Yeah, no worries. I think that would help with a lot of this issue that's been going on recently also, because you're reducing if you have like one, say, page object, and you can have multiple NFT, I guess, trust lines be subordinate under that object. I would think that would help reduce the data, like just the amount of data that the is having to process.
Definitely. It makes things more like you could better organize things, and also, as you said, you can group them up, and save data this way. And like currently is if you take an example of our XLS 14D, or even I think 14D, it is like you have to create one trust line per NFT, so it's super inefficient, right? That way, and also very expensive, because you have to activate one account, and basically, you have to activate one whole account for one NFT. So the cost is pretty high for one NFT, and
Yeah, so to go on top of that, I got it pulled up here now. It's 2 new objects and 1 new ledger structure. So the new ledger structure is the token page, which contains the NF token object inside of that. So you're allowed up to 32 token objects per page.
And then does a page still only cost 2 XRP reserve? Like a trust line?
Correct. Yeah, so it costs 2. So if you had 2 pages, it would lock up 4 XRP, and you're allowed up to 64 NFTs. So opposed to if you held 64 NFTs on the current structure, that would be 128 XRP locked up, opposed to 4. So that's that's why it hasn't been really. You don't really see too many marketplaces and whatnot featuring it right now, because of it's not too efficient for the user. But yeah, that's what it's pretty much going to lead to.
I wonder if that 32 and 64 is somehow tied to like the number of bits, like the straight up data.
So what I heard, I think it was York who mentioned that. It is some sort of internal. It's not arbitrary, right? The developers, like Nick and his team, they just figured out that this is the sweet spot where you get the best performance, storage, data stuff that is suitable. So that's why 32 and not, let's say, 34 or whatever. Yeah.
Man, those guys must be so busy with all the stuff that's been going on. Have you guys? I know you've been working on the NFTs. Have you noticed, was the pace of development or improvement on the new standard slowed with all the recent activity?
Yeah, maybe. Jamesy?
I don't know, because I'm not inside the development behind that. I would definitely say I don't think it's been slowed, but if anything, there's been more attention brought to it because of the whole community and all the projects being built on it now.
Yeah,
I can see that.
Yeah, I mean, there was some kind of backslash to the whole development theme because of when the ledger had was pretty busy, and we had these issues. people were just like, yeah, maybe, you know, we should not bring so much attention to this whole thing. And also like there was also a parallel was a hackathon, and people were like, hey, chill with these things for now. Let's just fix first the ledger and then continue with the other stuff. But I think it's more what Jebsy said. The attention is more on the actual standard right now, and I'm pretty sure they're working like endlessly to get this pretty good and pretty well done for now. But in my opinion, like, it is also a political decision, right? So even if they would have it completely ready, they would not just, you know, release it out of, you know, like, yeah, just let's release it on Monday or whatever. So they just probably plan ahead when it is more suitable. So this is where I was also thinking that it may has also something to do with the SEC case, right? So when the judge is about to rule on the case, which is probably expected in April or whatever. So maybe, you know, in advance we will hear like, yeah, now it is on the test net, and from the test net out. So once it is on a test net, it's just weeks until we see it on the mainnet. So when you see it on a test net, it's basically just around the corner, and I think that may play into the whole scheme. So because I was also trying to understand, like, okay, where we are in the grand scheme of the releases, and where would that fit into Ripple's perspective, right? To release it, and but if anything else, the past weeks and month, it really has proven that there's a lot of attention to it, and a lot of you know, hype and demand to get the standard out quickly as possible. So yeah,
I can see that drawing more attention to the whole issue around, you know, using just a base trust line for an NFT. I was going to ask, do you guys have a feeling for how long it takes to get an amendment, you know, published, if it's ever going to get approved? Because I mean, the Hooks amendment, that's been well over I almost want to say maybe close to 2 years. That's been being talked about for a long time.
For this proposal, from what I've heard from Yolk, he said Q1 to Q2 of next year. So as we're coming, are you talking about the XLS 20D proposal?
Yeah, I mean, that's not bad. I realize Hooks is a pretty low level thing.
Yeah, like it's been because kind of we're going about all the attention being brought to it. So if anything, I feel like they're working on it more outside of all the scalability stuff. But yeah, it's Q1 to Q2. Of course, with anything that could be pushed back, but with the attention that we're bringing to it, I think it's going to kind of put a foot on the gas and be around that time.
So do you have a sense for, let's say you've built your code for the ledger as it currently exists. Is it going to be a significant effort to upgrade or update that code to use the pages and have the NFTs issued through that new method?
No, so the official mint is waiting for the proposal. So we're waiting to hear about what they're saying on it and when it is. So that's where the IOUs come into play with the token supply. So essentially the IOUs are going to be, through Zum, you could open an X app. So that's being designed by Yolk as well. The X app is going to be linked right to Clever Gallery. So you'll be able to burn, and I have some images and mock-ups and whatnot I could post on the Twitter after. But it's just going to be a simple one-click button. You burn 0.5 of your token, and then that redeems you one random NFT out of the supply. And then essentially it's going to show you a page with your picture, and you could click it to go right to the Clever Gallery. So clever.gallery is the website name, and then my.clever.gallery, I believe. I could be mistaken, but that's going to lead to your gallery page with all your other NFTs. and this one's it's an open marketplace. So any NFTs that you own on the XLS 20D after that through that proposal that's open to that standard, you'll be able to view on Clever Gallery. So say if you minted it on another marketplace that has it open, you could still view it on that your personal gallery there. And the cool part about that, my apologies if you hear like the landscaping. The cool part about that is that he has an X app coming out as well for that. So if you're a fan of Zom like I am, kind of keep everything in one app. There's going to be also an X app that links to Clever Gallery, so you won't need to go to a website if you're using like a browser.
So when you say you're burning half of the IOU, is that just like through a redemption process from the just redeeming the half of the IOU issued, or I think they want to call them digital assets, but aiming it back to the issuer?
Correct. Yeah, it's just you're gonna essentially pay, I forgot what the coding term was. You'll described it. It might be in the tweet too, but it's a pay it forward or something. Pay it. I'm mistaken on this, but essentially you send your token, it gets burned, so the supply is no more, and then that redeems an NFT. So it pulls an NFT from the collection from your burned token. And since there's 10,000 NFTs and there's 5,000 tokens, it's 2 for 1. So essentially you have 1 token for every 2 NFTs. So once all 5,000 tokens are burned, then there's going to be all the 10,000 NFTs on the market that were redeemed.
Jebzy, if you send me on Discord the mock-ups or whatever you want to have here in the spaces, you can send me to the Discord and I can pin it here if you want. So.
Okay.
Yeah, what I wanted to add to this is because you asked about the hooks and how because it took that way longer than like for XLS 20D. So if this is compared to this, I think personally they probably just got ahead of themselves there, like with the proposal from with hooks, or maybe just reserved, just so before hooks they needed to release other stuff, and I think XLS 20D is probably one of them. Together with federated sidechains, and because like federated sidechains plus hooks are a really, really awesome combination to to move on the ledger. I mean, to also add there, I don't know who posted that on Twitter. I can find the post there, but essentially. They said, like, I think it was Nick, actually. Nick Bularis, maybe. That, you have also then the, with the federated sidechains, the automated, and plus probably hooks, the automated market maker, right? So this is also something they will work on it, which uses, it's similar to the DEX, right? It uses features of the DEX. No, it was Matt. It was in Miami, I think it was. He said that it uses the DEX, utilizes that for automated market maker, and this get me excited because this is then like on the chain, right? So because right now, if you use like DeFi or other protocols on Ethereum and whatnot, you just really rely on the protocol, on the smart contract they provide you, right? So usually you will look out for audited contract and whatnot. But if that would be native on the chain, right? Like the DEX right now, the DEX is on the chain, and all the other apps and whatnot are just windows. Like they utilize the current DEX. They just have a shiny front end and whatnot. But the DEX essentially is the same as the one that implemented 10 years ago, right? And if we have the same for the DeFi stuff, like for automated market makers, liquidity pools and whatnot, this is really a big deal. I think it's awesome. So.
So that's interesting. I'm probably going to say something completely wrong, but I could sort of see how the NFT logic might. I'm probably completely wrong. Might be like a prerequisite for hooks, because you've got sort of one transaction that can sort of mean multiple other transactions or like trigger other transactions. And I've been trying to figure out how, and this came up last night in yesterday's chat, how the David Joel Katz, whatever, said something about an automated market maker where you can only or you don't you have the option anyway to only supply liquidity on one side of the market. And so maybe that's like part of the federated sidechains thing, and maybe it's on the federated sidechain where the other side of the liquidity gets matched up. And then maybe all of that, I don't know if that exactly. I'm really, really curious about this idea of an automated market maker where you can only provide or float, one side of the market's liquidity. Like that to me is extremely interesting. And hooks as well.
Yeah, so I pinned the XApp mockup from for Xroom, so that's what probably would look like around that. For the automated market liquidity stuff, I absolutely don't know how they want to finally utilize this on the tech backend, but But what I said, what makes me really excited about this is that it is like the DEX and native to the chain. So this gives a whole new layer of trust to it, in my opinion. Because right now, even if you have large number, like let's say you have, I don't know, let's say you have 300, 500K of XRP, and you want to utilize this in a liquidity pool manner and get passive income on that, you better look out, right, on which protocols you deploy that, and at the end it can still get compromised. So you're not 100% sure. Of course, if it's audited and like on the Ethereum ones, you are on the safe side, like the big ones, Compound and whatnot. But to have this like on the XRP ledger, and also like as I said on the DEX with high security, this is really nice. Like, I mean, I'm pretty much looking for that, because as I said, it gives us a lot of trust, and this is, I think, also the whole thing about these automated market makers and liquidity pools, because the one drawback on that ones are safety and security, and that the contract does not get compromised and whatnot.
So I got two thoughts. I just lost one of them. But yet last night we were talking about, with all these new NFTs and trust lines and new projects coming to the XRP ledger, if there would be some way of verifying, and I invited XRP Forensics to join this, verifying that these weren't scam accounts, and maybe that could be part of an audit process, which I think that makes sense. And I forgot the other idea. What was the gist of what you were just saying?
The security aspect of the whole thing, that the contract cannot really be compromised if it's really native on a ledger. Like it still could, right? But it gives it more security, because then the ledger has issues.
It'll come back to me or not. Either way, who cares?
I just posted the XApp on Twitter. I see Vet did as well. I don't know how to pin stuff.
I did. I pinned it at the top here.
How do you pin things?
How do you pin things?
Yeah. So I'm new to this.
Yeah.
Me too.
Okay, follow me. So you just go over. So first, the post has already to be posted. So if the post is you posted your post, you go just over, like if you would share it with your like Discord account or whatever. So you go to share, and if you go to share, there you see at the top it says here share it with the spaces.
Yeah, you just share it right into the space. Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, exactly. There, you did it. Nice.
Yeah, so that's, I guess I could talk about that. That's an example of the XApp. It's designed by, I designed it, and then Yoke is developing it. The background's pending to change, so this is just a little wireframe mock-up. It's pretty simple. You open it via QR, or open it. I'm not sure how it's going to be open, actually. It's a good XApp. It's an XApp. Sorry, my apology. So you open it via Zoom, and then it's linked right to your wallet. So you're just going to click one button. It's going to make sure you want to go ahead with it because it's going to burn 0.5 token. And then you proceed with that, and it's going to give you back a unique one of one from the collection. And pretty much all the collection is going to be the ones that aren't, what's it called? Redeemed yet by the tokens. They're going to be not seen by the public. So Yoke commented on this a little bit more. So sorry if I'm not pronouncing or talking about this right, but essentially they're all going to be locked, so you can't view it. So only the ones that are redeemed and burned by the tokens are going to be the ones viewed on the marketplace until the other ones are redeemed. So you don't know what is left, and you don't know what you're getting, if that makes sense. So once that's done, and then you could click to view it online via. That's going to be directly linked to Clever Gallery. So that's going to be clever.gallery. I'm one of the artists featured on there. And then Monkey Monkeys, also another project, pretty cool project. They're going to be featured on there as well.
So,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Jebsy, maybe you want also to maybe clarify that for maybe people if they're not aware of how this will play out. So X-Rooms also do these minted and gifted ones. And how do they play out with the 10K ones? Like, do they get included? How this works? And
that's so funny you brought this up. I feel like we're on some wavelengths and you're overseas. Because I actually have this page brought up specifically to talk about that. So the cool thing about this proposal, and Karma, I know I spoke about this a little bit at the Miami thing, is that the new proposal it's called LSF Burnable is the flag name for developers, but it's a burnable action. So pretty much I could set that on an NFT. So going into that, NFTs can be burned. So all of them are going to be burnable. And then leading into that, they also have a transferable flag as well. So that's where it goes into my minted and gifted ones. So the transferable, I could set that option so it can't be transferred, aka it carries 0 value. So it's only going to be able to be viewed or like kept or burned by the owner. So any of the minted and gifted ones, like the ones I showed with the Ripple ones, those, quote unquote, if Matt Hamilton had his, he's not going to be able to post it on the marketplace and affect the 10,000 supply. So that's where like the supply and demand comes into play, so that you're not going to have to worry about any of the minted and gifted ones affecting the value of the supply, pretty much. Which I think that's pretty cool, because you could just pretty much make as many gifted ones as you'd like and not affect anything.
Yeah, you don't dilute the 10K.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. And that does sound sort of similar to some of like the hooks functionality. Like, because
hooks is going to be big.
Oh yeah, I'm really excited for hooks. Sorry, I started thinking about hooks and I forgot my other thing I was going to say. Yeah, the there's so much going on. I used to be able to keep up, and now I'm like, I feel like I'm falling behind. So burnable, that would be like if you executed a hook and then when you burn it, that obviously has to have some sort of transaction be put on the ledger, right? Or no?
Yeah, I would assume if the issuer burns it or whoever is owning that object, I'm sure it would have a transaction fee to burn it, and then that would be recorded right on the ledger.
And is the non-transferable thing kind of like a flag that you set, or
that's another flag. It's LSF transferable. So the description of that if set indicates that this NFT can be transferred. The flag has no effect if the token is being transferred from the issuer or to the issuer.
And then how is the max supply I'm trying to visualize. I'm visualizing this in my head. How is the max supply so it's not impacted because it's not transferable? And so there's like a wallet, I would assume, that's issuing the 10,000 X rooms?
Yeah, correct. It's going to be linked right back to, I'm discussing with the Oak, either it's going to be my receiver wallet, so the one that's been handing out the X rooms via like airdrop, or I may just make a new wallet, and that's just going to be like, I guess I could say a public artist wallet for Jebsy, if that makes sense. And then every project that I do moving forward will be minted through that wallet. So then I guess that's where you can know the proof of ownership, everything is going to go back to that essentially. And we're diving into it a little bit more. Like there'll be like a vanity associated to that, etc. I can't talk too much about that without giving much away. But yeah, there's going to be vanity, and everything is going to be linked back to a specific wallet, so you can know it's true to that collection.
So is that sort of like the old hot wallet, cold wallet setup? Hot wallet, warm wallet, cold wallet, whatever you want to call it?
I'm not too sure if I understand that. It's just going to be another XRP Ledger wallet.
Don't answer questions and don't give away anything proprietary. I'm just trying to wrap my head around it. So is there a wallet that's black hole that guarantees the supply being fixed?
Got it. So the black hole in relation to the supply of, I kind of get what you're saying. So if I don't explain this right, let me know. But pretty much to start, the tokens have been black holed. So the issuer account of the tokens are black holed. There's only X amount there. So those are only going to be at token supply in the XApp, and then all the 10,000 minted, it's only going to be linked to that IOU, if that makes sense. So the IOU, so you won't be able to purchase one of the 10,000s without using the IOU token to redeem it. So that's where the supply is locked through the black hole of the issuer. Now, if gotcha. Extended past that, if myself minting the NFTs, I don't necessarily think I can black hole that, because that would be my account, and then I would I would have access to that. So I plan, although I think maybe going into that, maybe that might be the process. I'm not too sure. I'm going to talk about it definitely with my developer and figure that out, because we have a couple different ways. We're talking about, for example, having them, this is another route, having all 10,000 not minted. So when you're burning the token, that mints the NFT from a storage, pretty much. That would be one route. But the other route, what we're planning to take, is that I'll have all 10,000 minted, and you won't be like, they'll be not viewable to the public until it's burned from that token. So and then that's when it places it right onto the marketplace. So they'll be pre-minted, 10K, stored in essentially my wallet, which leading what you're saying, black holing, maybe that makes sense for the specific project. But I did have the idea of having the same, like for example, Jebsy is my artist name. So I would have the same Jebsy wallet for every project I mint, but I'm not sure, maybe black holing it for each project might play a role into that, but definitely take that into consideration.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, because then you have, like, say each project would have its own kind of, what we would call like a cold wallet that issues the 10,000, right? And you black hole that, so you have guaranteed fixed supply.
Got it. Yeah, that's actually a really good idea, because then it's pretty much it reduces the reliability of me, like, one day after I do the post mint, I just all of a sudden mint 10,000, because technically it's all about word. Like, I could set the transferable on the minted and gifted. I could say that, and then all of a sudden I turn around and not do it. So that makes perfect sense. Exactly what you're saying. To black hole it, so it kind of locks the minted supply as well.
Yeah, and then you would say issue all of those to the Jebsy wallet, like that's the creator wallet, right? That gives you time to do the creating. And then from there, maybe I'm getting confused with the transferable, but from there, you could sell it just on the DEX, like on an order book, and let people bid whatever they want for it, right? So it's kind of like the issuing wallet is the black hole cold storage or cold wallet. The artist's wallet is like the sort of warm wallet. And then whoever buys it is kind of the hot wallet where, they own it and it's sold after that. Well, maybe it's not exactly a great analogy. I'm just thinking out loud.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but that would pretty much be the process. It would go from there could be one less wallet if we were to just keep it on the minting wallet and then without black holing it. But yeah, that would pretty much be it. Black hole to the artist, and then I could sell the NFT from there. But currently how this project is, for the most part, I airdropped all the token, or half the token supply. So all those are going to be redeemed by the public. And then I'm holding 800 of those tokens that I'm going to mint myself. So those are going to be the ones available on the marketplace to purchase, if that makes sense. So pretty much, if somebody is interested in the project and they didn't want to do one of the randomly redeem ones, they could wait, post mint, and then quote unquote purchase an NFT straight from the 1,600 that are going to be available. But with that being said, somebody could mint rare ones before that, so nobody knows like what that 1,600 is. It could be 1,600 like of lesser value. It could be 1,600 rare one, like, if that makes sense. So that's where it kind of makes it fun, in my opinion, that you could, if you want to mint a rare one, then you kind of want to get on the token supply earlier and then be minting it opening day, or redeeming it opening day. Sorry. And then, because who knows, maybe you could land one of, a Pepe X room. So you could land one of those, and that could be one of the viewed as a public by one of the more rare X rooms. So that's where it all comes into play on how you want to take the route of purchasing it. So I have both options available.
That's pretty cool. I'm pretty sure I followed that. Not 100% sure. Pretty sure I followed that. How do you, so the minting process, that's like what the post you posted here, where it's like if somebody wanted an X room today, what do they do?
It's, if they want, they could only get the IOU, so which is the token. There's no official X rooms minted, as in like the NFT wise, because we're specifically and other projects are waiting for the proposal. And with that being said, this has been told by developers too in the space, like Witz, I forget how to pronounce his name, Witz Wong, XRPL Labs. They pretty much are telling us, and not me specifically, but projects and developers to wait to hear on the new proposal, XLS 20D, because it's just going to be that more efficient. So that's why we haven't minted anything officially. We can do routes, for example, with XLS 14D and 16D metadata. SEC coin, so as the Super Eagle coin, they actually did a few NFTs on the current structure, which is pretty cool. And they have like their own little marketplace and whatnot they built for it. So that's neat. But we're waiting for it. And that's what people are asking. The developers are saying. So ultimately, there's nothing minted right now, but it's just the IOU. And that's the benefit of the ledger, is that it has the IOUs for that. So you could essentially purchase and have, have the value on the DEX, decentralized exchange, and then come time of mint, you could burn your IOU for that NFT.
So how do you get the IOU? Just on the DEX?
Yeah, correct. It's straight on the DEX. You could use an X app in Zum, so it has the DEX trade, or you could also use Sologenic. They have a DEX application, or there is XRP Trust Kit Toolkit. Sorry,
Toolkit,
yeah, Toolkit.
That's pretty cool. So, yeah, I think that makes sense to wait. That makes sense to me, to wait till the standards adopted or approved. Let me ask you this question I forgot earlier. So, when you said that you're using an X app, is that like an app on top of Sum? So does that like make Sum kind of like a platform where people can build apps on top of? Is that where that's going?
Yep, exactly. Yeah, I love Zum. I'm not even a developer, but I see there's so much potential in it. Zum X apps, it's pretty much built right on there. It uses their like API or something to that instance, so you could sign transactions using Zum. That's where you'll see when you click redeem token, it's literally going to pop up with like the whole QR shebang and pop and go right into Zum as a transaction. I mentioned during the podcast with the XRPL meetup, and you were there too, but I don't think you heard me because I was talking to Chip and Jeff. But I pretty much announced that we're doing an XRPL full history node donation. So pretty much you'll be able to donate 125 XRP or 250 XRP, depending on if you want one or two X shrooms. So you donate 125, and then I gift you back a token for you to redeem. And then until we hit 25K, that's going to go right to XRPL Labs, donated to create a full X shrooms, quote unquote, community history node. So instead of like doing my idea for it was, instead of people donating to the shared nodes, I could set up my own community fund and then give back to the members as well. So anybody who donates to this fund will get an NFT back, and then they'll also be donating to the whole stability of the ledger, because we're going to adopt literally a full history node, and it's 25,000 XRP.
That's not bad. That's pretty freaking cool, actually.
Yeah, I think it's a really cool idea, because it kind of just gives back to the community while also building on the foundation that it's on, or helping the structure that it's on. So it's just a win-win for everyone, in my opinion.
Well, and I'm guessing, this is just me guessing, that Wheatsea's coming out with that, community sponsored node, or, contribute crowdfunded node, full history node, might be part of, or a sliver of the solution to the backlog and the queue and all the issue that's happened in the last week or so, or 2 weeks, or whatever, however long it's been.
Yeah, I definitely could think that you wanted to speak.
Yeah, so it definitely helps, of course, because I think also Matt said that so rather than, because many people ask like, yeah, how can I help? How can I contribute? I heard about the validators and nodes and all this. How can I set up one and also participate? And Matt also said in one of the spaces, they actually need high quality validators and like full history ones, instead of many just willy-nilly, you know. So better you have a few high quality ones, like on for the XRP ledger ones, labs one, XRP labs one, and that they maintain and, you know, make sure it's right configured and always online, because you have this is even for tech people, like this is not like a very simple task actually, because you have also make sure you have a proper monitoring of them and make sure it's always on sync and whatnot. So it takes effort and time. So this is not to underestimate. But what I want to say is this is one part of the equation, right? The other one is that there is or was actually or is still like on the ledger issues, you know. It's not really how you said that, but the whole fee escalation thing that needs to be adjusted, right? So that you know, it gets more smooth. So it's not only the validators and all these other parts for the consensus, but it's also work on the ledger that has to be done first. And you have also said that Nick came also out with first hands-on improvements for trust lines and for other things to help out the current situation. And I think this will also definitely be beneficial for it. And yeah, and you have also like the issue is that it's funny because one thing is that usually, even if the fees escalate, usually every service on the XRPL should adjust to it, right? So the fees would just increase, okay? But we had so many services, and probably like especially XAM and also Solgenic, right? They just hard coded this 10 drops or 12 drops fee. So you couldn't, because the actual fee was way higher because of the escalation. So we had a huge backlog of transactions because of these hard coded things. So never hard code that, but they did it because all the years it worked fine, right? And yeah.
Yeah, there was another thing I saw where Nick and David had a tweet back and forth where I guess they were looking at the new DB, the database, and I forget exactly what it was, but Nick was saying they found some way where the I don't know if the method that the database was using, like it should have been able to tell, like go check something and say like, okay, we've got like that doesn't exist, right? So there's no need to go check it again. But it kept going back and checking like again and again and again. Like it didn't get that it checked it and the answer was no. And so they had a fix for that, which would just reduce like the IO throughput or load, I guess is probably a better word.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a multi-prong solution. I think some of the stuff we've discussed is part of the solution. Some of that stuff, and I'm sure some stuff I don't even know about.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, there were so many posts and discussions on Twitter about, you know, the XRPL and whatnot. But I think this is just a way to, first of all, that probably needed to happen in order for it to mature even more, right? And also what many others said, including York, is that we should see this also as an opportunity to like test, you know, the XRPL for these real world use cases. So in other words, we should rather learn from it and say, okay, how can we improve that, instead of saying, yeah, it's all shit and whatnot. Because let's face it, it's an open source one, right? The XRPL ledger is decentralized as it can be, right? And so when something happens, everyone has to work on it. And you have seen a lot of people, proposing a lot of changes and what you can do better and whatnot. And some said, yeah, this is the trust line farmers, and how can we prevent trust line farmers? And people came up with tools. It's also pretty nice, like the Pixel Ape Robot people. And so people work on many fronts to improve the ledger, and this is so awesome to see that, because it just undermines the whole ledger, because everyone is contributing to it. Everyone is making sure to do his part, and to educate people, and to make sure that everything works. So the more techie people, they can do more stuff. The less people say, hey, how can I help? And that's why I really like the the campaign they did, with the donation campaign, the XRP Labs, to get people donate, and so they can host high quality validators, and to help this system to get going. And but because and many people also blamed Ripple, and this is what I think this is really funny, because blaming Ripple is nonsense. First of all, I don't know how many full history nodes they have. Maybe 2, 3, 4. I don't know, but from all the validators, right? If you have all the validators, it's just a couple of percentage they have. So they do not control 80-90% of everything, and they are ones to blame. And they are also working hard on fixing stuff, and to post changes like open source. It's because it's open source, literally, right? Because they use it also, right? So they also affected with the whole what happened. So they had also to get their developers together and say, hey, how we can fix this, because as I said, they use the ledger as we do, right? With all the DEX stuff, trading, if you want to do transactions, and all this stuff, all the good stuff. So
yeah, I think I was watching the congressional hearing about crypto the other day. This little conversation is way more sophisticated than anything Congress could even fathom. Just as an anyway. But I think with the lawsuit and stuff, one, the fact that the whole community came together, not people just by Ripple, to look at this issue. And then with Wheatsy's like community sponsored nodes, like that's even in some way, that's even more decentralization on top of the existing decentralization. Now, granted, maybe XRP Labs is managing the node, but if it's run and funded and paid for by a set of community members, if the community members want to pull the plug on Ripple or on the XRP Labs, they can. No more donations. Boom, shut it down. Like, it's even more decentralization. So I don't know. I'm trying to think of the legal stuff. We got another probably many months of lawyers BSing about in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, like how the community came together to fix this. I mean, there's no better way to prove how decentralized this is, right? So Ripple had literally no say in this. David was in freaking Antarctica, and everyone was like, they were doing their part and doing stuff, and so he couldn't help, and it was not depending on him to do anything. So people just came together and talked, hey, how can we fix this stuff and do that. I know. Some people might say, yeah, this Antarctica thing, maybe he's placing some validators there and what. No, just kidding. But I think this was like an awesome proof, right? How decentralized this whole network is, and that actually Ripple has no control over it whatsoever. And this is still really, really difficult to get the word out. Like even for people in crypto, it is very difficult to tell them, hey, the XRPL is a decentralized one, right? They know, first of all, it's not XRP, it's Ripple. This is what they say, and so it's and I cannot blame really the people in Congress. If even the crypto people, get it wrong, or they want to get it wrong. Maybe they don't want to see it. I don't know. But
I think there's a lot of they want to get it wrong. I mean, I don't know if you were around back when all of a sudden the XRP community started getting attacked, but there was a concerted and funded effort. I'm not going to go off on it, but I've seen certain things like screenshots where people are paying, Bitcoin for folks to go and FUD XRP and, attack the community. And
yeah, I mean, the biggest fudder, if you want to say that, the biggest fodder ever is Joe Lubin, in my opinion. So, I mean, look, people mostly say, the XRP ledger is centralized. For one fact, it's Ripple owns so much XRP. The escrow, they have 40%, 45, I don't know how much exactly of the whole supply, and that's why it's centralized. But if they would apply this logic to any other blockchain, man, they would wake up, right? Nobody questions like if the 10 biggest wallets on BTC, right? I don't know how much, but they probably control like 89% of that, and this is totally fine. This is not centralized. But Ripple owning, I mean, you can say like, this is centralized because Ripple has a lot of XRP into it, but first of all, the XRP does not give you any say, so it's not like it's not a proof of stake thing that you own like 40% of the consensus. First of all, right? And if they say like, this is the definition of centralization. If someone has a huge or the biggest share of the whole token supply, okay, then fine enough. But then you should also apply the same logic to other blockchains, and you would probably come to the same conclusion that most of them, are then, if you go according with this logic, is centralized, right? But they make this weird distinguishing, they distinguish that chain. There's this, there's a two-faced thing here, and but whatever.
I mean, to me, in the beginning, like the whole point of a blockchain was no single person had control over the ledger entries. Way back in the day, I got criticized pretty heavily because I was like, hey guys, just so you know, all we're doing is we're talking about an accounting tool here. Like, let's just get real boring about it. This is a giant accounting tool. And everyone was like, oh, it's a breakthrough, blah, blah, blah. Okay, fine. It's a breakthrough accounting tool, but it's still an accounting tool. And the biggest innovation is that no single person has control over a ledger entry. And by that standard, I think XRP Ledger is more decentralized than some of these other chains. And to me, that was the real true innovation that Bitcoin, like at the root of Bitcoin, was like nobody, no single person, company, or whoever group has control of when a transaction is entered on the ledger. And I feel like a lot of people lost touch with that pretty quickly. And I don't know if anybody else on here has been around long enough, but there was a stark difference when all of a sudden everybody in the XRP community started getting attacked. I mean, like, it was a obviously organized thing. And then that's when the big talking point about, well, Ripple owns so much XRP, so it's centralized. And I was like, yeah, but who owns the stuff isn't, the federal government owns most of the US dollars. Like, doesn't,
Yeah, right.
you know, like it's still a dollar that everybody uses. I mean, I've talked to two people today in two different countries, Turkey and Peru. I think it was Peru, the other guy, where, you know, they're starting to use the US dollar as their currency. That doesn't mean, I mean, it doesn't mean that I don't know. It's, I'll shut up. All right. Me,
I mean,
control of making a ledger entry, that's how you determine if it's decentralized or not. If Ripple can tell you you're not allowed to make that payment, centralized. If Ripple has no say, decentralized.
And this is a good point, because I just want to add that people turn really a blind eye to one important factor, and in my opinion, it's the miner extracted value, right? The miner extracted value. And people seem not to care much about that, but like the popular blockchains right now, right? Especially Ethereum and BTC, like proof of stake especially. Miners are a huge stakeholder in this whole business, right? So, but apparently this is okay, right? So this is not a huge issue for let's say the maxis or whatever. But in my opinion, this is not a real future-proof blockchain. It was really nice for the time being, for what it has to demonstrate and for its time, but it is not something that you want to build, let's say, a whole financial industry on it, right? This is not the way to go, and that's why I really think that more people should pay attention to this, because, as I said, it's very important to know that that miners gain value out of all this, and they have a huge interest in high fees, right? They don't want low fees, they want high fees. And with all the architecture issues that, let's say, proof of work has, right? So that essentially you can, it depends on if you have, let's say, a huge miner pool or whatnot, you could essentially censorship people. So there are a lot of things that you can do if you just have enough power with the whole mining pools. And let's face it, even though people say mining pools and it's decentralized and we have so many participants, they are basically centralized. Okay, you have just a handful of mining pools, and if you just convince them, the right people to just delegate this whole mining power to one or a few issues you want to address, like, please censorship this and this incoming transaction and whatnot. I mean, look, if you want to do, I mean, how ridiculous is this? If I want to make a high value purchase on the Ethereum network, right? Let's say I don't want to buy a board API club shit. No, sorry. But let's say I want to buy, let's say I want to buy a punk, right? It's not much better, but let's say I want to buy a punk.
Shroom.
Yeah, I want to buy a punk, right? You have the issue of people that can actually front run you. So you have to pay a ridiculous amount of fees, right? To just get into the first in a row to get executed by the transaction, right? Because else people can front run you and, just trick the system this way. And so in my opinion, it's not a system that it's really user friendly in the long term. But yeah. What I want to say is, sorry, Ruben is for quite a while here at the top. Maybe he wants to say something.
Well, yeah. Speak up, Ruben. But I want to say I couldn't agree more. And I actually used John Deaton's Write Your Congress tool, and that's exactly what I tried to explain in the few amount of words, character count it would let me write, is everything you just said. I mean, you said it great. And I don't know why that fact, because it's a fact, I don't know why that doesn't get more attention. To me, it's one of the most important things to understand about this new blockchain tool, accounting tool. And the miners are extractionary in a proof of work setup. And in a proof of stake setup, it's the people who were there first that benefit. And then I think that all and I don't know if you've read Flair's economic argument for why having the network security of the network backed by the value of the token is bad, but it's not a long argument. I'm happy to just explain it real quick if people want. Otherwise, just go read it on Flair. But as soon as I read that, I was like, oh my gosh, that absolutely makes sense. And I don't know why this is. It goes right to David Schwartz's statement. You know, the best incentive is no incentive. Like, you got to do something in the real world to create value using these new accounting tools. Just like in the real world, when you have a balance sheet, you got to be doing something in the real world to make it worth using that balance sheet or those accounting tools. Like, do something in the real world, create some value for people. And then, you know, if you want to use a blockchain as your accounting tool, fine. I'll shut up. Ruben, if you want to speak up, or anybody else, whatever.
Yeah, Ruben, what's up? You're muted, Ruben.
Hello?
Hey.
Can you hear me now? Oh, my bad.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with a lot of you guys were saying. I just had a quick question. Maybe it's a noob question, but what would it be the difference between you guys minting on the XRPL to, let's say, Sparkles or Sologenic, their marketplace that they're coming out with? What would be that difference?
Maybe Jebsy or York?
I guess if you want me to speak on it, it's for blockchain specifically. You said Sparkles. I'm sorry. Or Sologenic.
He meant
Sologenic
probably.
Yeah, Sologenic is going to be a little bit more centralized in that aspect. It's not open to all XLS20 marketplaces. So, for example, if I minted straight on Sologenic, it's only going to be viewed on Sologenic. I'm partnered with Yoke right next to me with Clever Gallery. So his marketplace is completely open. So I'm minting through there. And with that being said, any other galleries or marketplaces, you're going to be able to view X rooms on there. So you're not going to have to go to straight Sologenic every single time, which is fairly centralized, kind of similar to OpenSea. So, for example, if you mint on OpenSea, you could only view it on OpenSea or quote-unquote Rarible. That's their other little partner thing. But yeah, so that's pretty much the main reason why I'm on that aspect and not on Sologenic. And then Sparkles, is that XLM, if I'm not mistaken?
Songbird.
Songbird. Yeah, Songbird's cool. I just prefer the XRP ledger in that instance because you could scale it out more. And with the Hooks Amendment coming, the vision that it has with scalability, I would prefer my project to be on there, on this ledger.
Got you. Yeah, honestly, it's the first I've heard of the X Room, so it's pretty interesting. Wish you luck in that.
Thank you. Yeah, welcome to the community. We're all about positivity and just spreading knowledge.
I would also add to to buttress your point about from what I understand, the Sologenic marketplace. They're gonna basically come out before the standard's available, so they're not even gonna be like OpenSea, which, as if you see my profile picture, it's a funk. It was minted on OpenSea, but because they use the level 1 blockchain, if you wrote your own smart contract that interacted with it, you could write and make your own marketplace, just like Larva Labs did. This only works for ERC 721 tokens, of course, but because of the royalty aspects, which are tied to specific marketplaces and wallets. But since anyway, so my point is, from what I understand, Sologenics, NFT minting, they're going to be pretty much I would even say less than Flow, because I think you can even buy a Flow token now. But I'm pretty sure whatever they're going to do is not going to use the standard. They want to basically co-opt it and front run the market. And if OpenSea, if everybody had like 6 months to build OpenSea, there would be no OpenSea. Everybody would know how to make it. That's my retort there. Versus Songbird and any sort of EVM style contract, PABX, anything with lower fees. You're talking again about minor extracted value, and the XRPL is like the only place that doesn't exist and hasn't existed since its start, earlier than Ethereum. Interoperable by default. You don't have to implement a protocol in a specific smart contract and then re-implement a new thing and then proxy that old contract so that we could, update it in the future. It's just, there's just a lot of things that are going to be easier on the XRPL with the NFT. I also like the speed of it. Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, I just had an idea. So I think before you joined, we were talking a little more about like how the wallet structure is set up and the issuing wallet and the artist wallet and some black holing, that kind of stuff. But when you said royalties to the artist,
yep,
it made me think, I'm assuming you guys know how rippling works, or do you? Or
I do, yeah. There's also royalties as part of XLS20, so you're aware.
What is that? What's that? I don't know that.
So it's every time it's sold, every secondary sale, first sale, the minter gets a percentage. So it could be. So the wallet of an artist could assign a different minting address as theirs, and that could be assigned from the platform or whatever, and then they could essentially get the royalties to their direct wallet instead of the minting.
Okay, that's where I was going, because I wonder if is that based on rippling, like in the code, or because that sounds like what I was going to say is you can do. It is. Okay.
It is very close to rippling, where you're thinking about so rippling is a very advanced feature. It's like multiple debt allocations between parties, and then they could go through you. But the aspect of that is like it unlocks the DEX, and just like interoperability unlocks the DEX, and so if you use GitHub or I guess Bitstamp, their IOUs on the ledger, they take a cut every time you send it somewhere. It's like at 0.02% or something. But basically they're
do you know quality in and out?
Quality in and out is based on the trades, right?
It's part of rippling. It's like the trust line. So when you set a trust line and you let that value sort of ripple through your account, you can have a quality in. It could be 100%, and then there's no fee. And you have quality out, which could be 100%, or you can adjust those so that the wallet address that the value flows through basically keeps a percentage fee. So if the XLS20 has that sounds a lot to me like sort of combined, like using quality in outs, rippling, but maybe at the page level.
I wasn't thinking of that, but you're absolutely right. I was just thinking of the normal transfer fee, which is part of the rippling, like the same mechanism that it would do for quality in and out. You could have a fee based on your token, so that the gateway can collect that, make a percentage. So it's like this fee that
makes sense.
The transaction, right? So there's only a few specific types of transactions for NFTs. There's offer create, offer accept, leak, and burn and mint. So when you accept an offer, or if somebody offers to buy a piece, my Extrum, and they offer to buy it, I accept the offer, I get the payment, and then the artist would get the royalties are attached to it.
That's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
I guess I need this because I only first heard of this down at the Miami meetup.
That's awesome. I'm glad you went to there then. But yeah, this is like one of the biggest things that I'm so bullish about XRPL NFTs is that we're considering it from the onset, and like the royalties were part of the earlier NFT standard discussion. So I'm glad that it was part of the proposal and using a mechanism that's native to the ledger. It already knows how to like collect fees on transfers.
You're kind of breaking up a little bit.
Sorry, I was just saying it's using a mechanism that's like normal to the ledger. It can collect fees on like a transaction if it needs to. But yeah, royalties was always part of the standard discussion from the onset. And
that's all.
Unlike other marketplaces or any specific contract, which that's what I'm. So if you look at Solana, people say, oh, there's only one marketplace, but it's just like one contract that somebody implemented, and somebody can go make another marketplace, and that doesn't matter. But they limit their royalties to 50%, which is, I mean, just why do you limit it at all? Just like let the buyer artists set their fucking royalty what they think is correct, and that's why there's like no limit on the royalties on XLS20.
Well, plus all that logic, that's business logic, aka smart contracts. All that logic is done on layer one. And people, knock XRPL as not having business logic, but maybe it's clunky and you kind of got to know how to navigate it. But you can put a lot of logic onto XRP Ledger, and this hooks thing is going to just multiply that by orders of magnitude, like what you can do if you really kind of know how to set things up. I mean, I've got some stuff I want to build that it's derivatives stuff, because we still don't have derivatives. It's been talking about for almost since the beginning, and I think the hooks is going to make it possible. And you can cobble together some pretty fancy business logic on XRP Ledger, even though it might not be Turing complete. You can still get the job done.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's like, what is a smart contract? And I feel like my definition is coming from, some pretty big brains in smart contract space. It's just a software that enforces rules between parties. And if you look at the history of scaling, every time you have to go reach out to the database is pretty much where you're bottlenecking. And databases until Cassandra really didn't scale. And Cassandra just like basically indexes everything and makes as many partitions as possible. So for me, it's like people want to put the logic so they don't have to program it and stand up another stack, as like most people need to do for pretty much anything. So I don't know. Like for me, it's like it's a pendulum. I think if you find a use for hooks that you can do necessarily, or could do necessarily off ledger, and like only connect to it or transact with it when you need to, it's just going to make it like, there's a lot of room for hooks. Like there's a lot of things that you could do with hooks, and it's purposely not turned complete, so it doesn't affect the performance. But
yeah,
I think most NFTs don't need like smart contracts. Most NFTs are just art, and they rest like the other 0.99% of artists that do generative art, where you like look at the chain and create art based on it, or like it's like nouns, the nouns DAO, which is a new piece every day, like and then it work forever. You can see it like that, I think. And then the rest is just like, what are your thresholds and what can you work within those bounds? But sorry, you were saying like you could do a lot with the XRP Ledger with hooks. I'm thinking as well you could do a lot today without needing hooks.
Oh yeah, I agree. There's ways to do. So like what I want to build, there's a way to do with, this is even predating when M of N got added to the ledger. and you can use order books and rippling and black holing, and that's what I'm saying. You got to kind of know how to navigate your way around some of this stuff. But and then Flare came out, and I was like, oh, well, that might make things easier. And then I started looking at hooks, and I don't know if anybody here is familiar with complexity theory, but it's kind of like invokes like evolution, where you go through feedback loops, and like the animal can't, what was Darwin's thing with the birds and their beak shape and blah blah blah. And if the beak is longer, the bird lives, and then it survives more. Whatever. It's a feedback loop. And the hooks basically, yeah. But if you look up complexity theory and complex adaptive systems, and then basically that stuff, if you get into that, man, it's really a good thing to know. And then you look at it's called a multiplex. So like the Internet of Value, a multiplex is basically a network of networks, like the internet. So when you look at the Internet of Value, it's a network of all these blockchains, banks, whatever, money service providers, like all these different value networks, right? And what the hooks does, though, back to the feedback loops, which effectively is the root cause of natural selection. The hooks like allows you to create kind of feedback loops on the XRP ledger. So you can say, if A happens, then do B. And if A doesn't happen, do C. And if B happens, do D. And if C happens, do E. And all of a sudden you can start compounding these transaction types. And granted, you have to understand the various transaction types and what options are available on Ledger. But there's enough transaction types and ways to stack these things that you can really start getting creative. Now we're going to have this XLS 20 with pages, and you can have multiple. Just consider an NFT like an object, right? You could have multiple objects on Ledger, and oh man, I'm just thinking out loud. That even adds like a whole nother layer of being able to stack things together. It did, yeah. Anyway, I'll shut up. But I don't think this whole Turing completeness is the gold standard. Turing completeness is one method, but it's actually, I've talked to some read anyway, some computer scientists that are way freaking smarter than I am, and they're like, dude, Ethereum is not really truly Turing complete, because for something to be Turing complete, you have this assumption that you have an infinite amount of transactions. But once you start adding the cost to the transaction, you don't practically have a Turing complete system, because you're going to run out of money before you find the answer. And with the hooks and the feedback, like, yeah, granted, each time you trigger a hook, that's another transaction fee on XRP Ledger also. So the same point would apply, but hooks is not Turing complete. You just have to be able to work within the framework of the various types of transactions on the XRP Ledger. And which is finite.
You're absolutely right. And I was just curious if you're familiar with hook chaining, or are you just like referring to like the ingress egress on a single account?
I'm not sure what ingress egress means. What does that mean?
Like incoming and outgoing. So like you can install a hook to act on, you can act on things coming into the wallet or things coming out of the wallet, just like an event.
So no, I'm not familiar with that, but that sounds to me like the same concept as quality in coming in and quality out going out. So you have the other thing with complexity or complexity theory, whatever. I don't know. Look up Santa Fe Institute. That's the knowledge hub. Then you've got Harvard, MIT, all these other universities are picking it up. But yeah, it's a matter of flow directionality. Just like I can set a trust line to you, and you could set a trust line to me. Well, those are two different directionalities of flow, just like in and out, or ingress and egress. Same concept, I think, if I'm understanding you right.
Oh, yeah. I'm just referring to how does a hook like run, right? And right now that's like when things are sent to it or when it's like funds are sent out. So there's a new thing coming with hook chaining, which so like if you can only install one like hook on a like wallet. I think hook chaining will unlock a ton of complexity that you're talking about.
100%. When I was saying about stacking hooks, hook chaining was the word I should have used. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it excites the hell out of me because, quite frankly, none of this crypto market is going to reach full maturity without derivatives and these futures derivatives that are available through centralized platforms. That ain't going to cut it. They need to be designed on layer one, and I think hooks is going to make that possible on the XRP ledger. And it's technically probably already possible on Ethereum. I haven't seen anybody do what I want to do, but it should be possible. I don't know why anybody hasn't done it. Seems obvious to me, but I come at all of this stuff from a finance point of view. I'm a finance guy that like realized all the money's in software, so I better learn that business, right? But I'm really truly a finance guy. So I'm looking at these markets as, you have to have like the real world, quote, not the crypto is not real, right? But the real world has derivatives markets that are extremely robust, that trillions and trillions of dollars a year trade through for a reason. And that reason is for risk management. And it's somewhat counterintuitive, but one of the main way you increase value is actually through reducing risk. You have a startup like X Rooms, right? Well, if you have no sales, that's a risk. Okay, so then you figure out sales. It's worth more. Like the company's worth more. Then maybe you have no secondary market, so you figure out like how to do a secondary market. Okay, we'll use the DEX on XRPL. Boom, got that problem solved. Like each time you reduce your risk, the value of the project or whatever you're doing grows in value. So it's sort of counterintuitive, but once you think about it, that's how things work. So without derivatives, you can't manage risk. You can either be like long or short, and that's a very limited amount of risk management tools.
So the one technical point I wanted to maybe clear up for you, why this doesn't exist on Ethereum yet, and you see it possible on XRPL, is because nothing's interoperable by default there on Ethereum. So like even Ether can't interact with ERC20 tokens natively. You usually have to wrap Ether, use it to then use on the DEX, which has to have some certain pairs and is limited to liquidity pools now. But it was always like, I don't know, like I've always seen people have trouble try to use like order book DEXs on Ethereum, whereas the XRPL has that by default.
That's a very good, very subtle point. Very astute. Good point, for sure.
I mean, think of the friction that's intrinsic there. That's why it hasn't been done yet. Every DEX on Ethereum looks at different order books too. It's pretty funny.
Well,
Yeah,
and
that's
then
true.
on XRPL, you have pathfinding, which can combine up to 7 hops, whether it's through a trust line or an order book. I made a whole video on it. I mean, it's not a detailed video, but good freaking point.
That's my hot take. Mad Yak probably knows a little bit more. What's up, dude?
Hey, what's up?
Hey. Anyway, I was just saying like how there's like no interoperability between DEXs on Ethereum.
Well, and that's what the pathfinding provides, because it'll hop across. I believe the max is a 7 hop transaction, all within one ledger, right? So that brings up another risk that's mitigated. But
I mean, just
I know
pathfinding
that
so big.
Ethereum order books can't combine. That's total weakness.
I look at pathfinding like, sorry, I was cutting you off, but you got me excited thinking about it. Just like pathfinding for me, like it eats the spreads between orders on the ledger. So it's actually bringing the spreads closer together while it's bridging currencies. It's like this.
100%. It's routing functionality. I did a video with Crypto Erie, and there was a portion in the video where I talked about this. It's the routing functionality, and the code is built to minimize or to maximize the quality of a payment. So if more of the value will get from origination to destination by going through 7 hops instead of 2, even though 2 hops seems like a more direct path, it'll go through the 7, and then more of the value will get there. So it minimizes the waste or the spread, as you just said. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Jörg, that was what we said. We discussed that before you hopped on here, because you mentioned this with the DEX and Ethereum. They watch at different order books. We took the example of automated market maker, liquidity pools, and when this gets implemented through by utilizing the DEX functionalities, so then you get similar results, which is really exciting, because then you have one pool instead of severals, and like.
For me, you brought up a good point too. Like the products Ripple offers is like until they can get, well, whatever they offer, it's like very similar in my head. Like ODL, if you look at the patent, it's doing like essentially it has to have these like locks around something like the XRPL because it currently doesn't have the liquidity, right? I've heard people talk about how they can like function it where they can make one pair go down over here and go up over here. That's the idea of like transitioning and like they can arbitrage the market with that liquidity. But I don't know. For me, it's like if you can imagine spreads getting closer and closer while people are sending payments to any other currency, if there is AMMs now too, yeah, it's like what I guess, I don't know if you touched on that too, Vet, but like the vision of like these pools of liquidity where things like ripple between each other. It's like basically, yeah, it's really cool. It's a cool vision. I'm really excited for it. And then the one other thing for me is like the internet value would always in my head include NFTs and objects. For me, it's a no-brainer to like get NFTs on Ledger. In some ways, I think we will see, people wanting to use them for collateralized debt, escrowing NFTs. I don't know. Like for me, just having the native object there is a huge step, and I really think it's going to come with the additional benefits. The new like the awesome new like tech. I think Nick developing like packing these NFTs on pages will be backported to like, improve the efficiency of all other objects on the ledger, which is really exciting.
You know what? I just had an idea with what I want to do with the derivative stuff. What if I made the derivative an NFT and then it wouldn't hit the ledger with such heavy load? Because I was just going to use IOUs. That might be a better route to go. And then you can use the, I called it quality in out. What did you call it? Where the artist.
Oh, royalty?
Royalty, yeah. And you can use the royalty as a monetization mechanism.
Yeah, these these primitives, I think, are what's really interesting to me. It's like this light as possible daemon of that self-clustering, aware. I'm not aware. Healing. Implements this protocol is just like trying to make the lightest touches around what's the most optimized format. Concludes to this is the best network for payments. This will be the best network for value.
I'm just going to say this has been a great conversation. I didn't know I've learned some stuff from a lot of you guys. And so, yeah, appreciate that. Because I was not up to speed on the, I guess, XLS 20. I'm going to have to do some reading.
Oh, you don't.
Yeah. What I wanted also to add here is people think this is just, for JPEGs and that's it, but they get not the whole picture of that. It's all about digital rights. And for the next phase of the whole evolution of the internet, Web3 and whatnot, and this is mandatory to have. Without that, you cannot have real proper Web3. And sorry. I'm almost choking on my cereals here. But what I want to say is this is like beyond what people probably have on the radar, So with the digital rights, you get so much, opportunities to do this, and also to not only to monetize it, but, also flexibility. I don't know if one of you guys saw that or heard that. Podcast with, I don't know where it was, I don't know, but it was basically with Schwartz and with another guy, and he made just the bullish case for digital rights and the NFT space, and why you right now have so many providers like Hulu, and you have Amazon Prime, and if you purchase that, you have it only on that platform, and if you stop paying your subscription, you lose it, even though you have paid for it. So it's a whole mess, it's a whole mess, and it's not made for literally for the guy. It's optimized for whoever is the middleman. It's not convenient for the creator. It's not good for the consumer, right? So for the one who is purchasing these or taking for this digital quote unquote right to consume it or to have it. So it's basically only optimized for the middleman and not for the creator nor for the purchaser. So, and I think this will really disrupt this whole industry because it's really, really, like he said that also in the podcast, it's perfect for disruption. And I think you kind of see this where this is going. But it takes some patience to play out, but it will play out. It's just inevitable, you see where this is going. And so this is why I also like this quote with, art, and this is a prime example for the whole category of that. You need really endurance, and it needs to endure and to be you gotta have real patience in this, and to be resilient for all the other stuff that comes around. Because you see this also with Ripple and the banks, and with the lawsuit and whatnot. And no matter what you think and on which side of the whole topic you are, the current incumbents, they will fight till death, for this, because they don't want that to happen, right? Because right now, major player have nice income through that, and if you take that from them, you see them fighting, and people will. So you will see more. You will see more shit show, so to speak, before this really plays out, in my opinion. But it will play out, because this is like, people often refer to this like, this is the new digital revolution, 3.0 and whatnot, and industrial revolution. And this is not a top-down thing. This is really from the bottom up, right? You see people, they just change it. They don't wait to like people from the top down change this thing. They themselves change it, right? And you see this with the whole value that is get locked in this whole systems, right? On the blockchain, on the project, and NFT space in general. And so this is not a joke anymore. So if someone was like joking around for these things, they're no joke anymore. And more people have to recognize it.
You're totally correct. And in the bottoms up thing, that is in complexity theory, that's what you call an emergent property. So when you take the same, like when water turns to ice, like it changes properties. It's now a solid instead of a liquid, but it's the same molecules, it's the same ingredients. And that always kind of happens from a bottoms up. And when you look at even something like people think of real estate, right, is extremely tangible. But really, when you own a piece of real estate, what you own is a bunch of rights. Well, those rights currently are recorded down at the local county courthouse, at least here in America, and pretty sure it works the same everywhere else. And, in my county, the courthouse burned down. So then what? Like, and all the paper's gone. And I mean, this is like a real, it's not a make-believe story. It really happened. Like my family has an old piece of property. We can't trace the title back to when we bought it because the freaking courthouse burned down. And all of it, and Proppy, I'm sure, but there's more companies that are going to, what you were saying, they're going to push back. People don't always realize, but I don't know if you know the company Thomson Reuters. Thomson Reuters is obviously a centralized company, but they sell all the software that all the basically 95% of the county property appraisers in America use to record all of these rights to the ownership of property, which include the state's rights, like the state's right to taxation, the utilities rights to easements, the tenants' rights to quiet enjoyment or whatever. I mean, it's all a bunch of rights that have to be recorded. And trust me, when Thomson Reuters figures out what's going on, they're going to push back. It's not just going to be the big banks. Right now, like the crypto world is all more or less focused on like currency and money. But once the industry grows into all these other rights, which effectively is like the NFT thing, there's going to be a lot of other companies pushing back because they're looking at the death sentence. What you can't beat them, join them. It's that kind of a.
Yeah, I mean, like you really have to realize how, and I mean, you only realize it when you're actually doing what you want to do, and suddenly realize, oh shit, this is really bullshit. And a prime example for this is like payments, right? And it comes to simple things like payments. Like people, oh yeah, I can do that with everything, or right now I can do it. But this is just a shiny front end, If you just want to, let's say, look, I live in Germany, right? If I want to I get an invoice, I want to pay something overseas, here, let's say somewhere in Florida. my fastest way to do this is probably just to hop on a plane and fly the shit money over, instead of waiting to do it via Swift and whatnot. Just get the cash and we have almost 2022, right? This is nuts that we still live in this, in this kind of architecture. So in my opinion, it's just, it's ridiculous. The more you think about it, it's ridiculous, definitely. Yeah.
By the way, just so people know, whenever I do these spaces, anyone is free to speak up. So I know we just had
definitely.
Anybody, this isn't like a closed space. So anyway, I'll shut up.
There was somebody who asked me how to join, but I think they maybe had UI problems. But if I see him again, I'll point him out and maybe they'll come up.
Yeah, I think Solomon is up here. Hey, what's up?
What's up, man? No, I'm glad that I'm glad that Yoke posted this. Oh, I've been swamped lately, trying to catch as much as I possibly can. I think it was Yoke that was speaking and brings up a really, really good point that a lot of these legacy institutions are certainly going to be fighting back, but it's fighting back, in my opinion, against a tide that is going to come whether or not they fight back or not, integrate or not. I wanted to share, and I hate using Twitter Spaces on my phone versus my laptop, but there's a really good document by Alex Pentland, who worked with Ripple probably 5 or 6 years ago that I found, basically called from the internet to the interledger. And it's kind of like this rollout time frame. And I think it puts a lot of things in perspective, because a lot of people are thinking, a lot of people are so concerned with short-term time frames, NFTs, just being as digital art, all these things. And that's kind of a nonsensical type view, in my opinion. Certainly it takes those things, the hypey things, the art things, to get us to where, I guess, to kind of allow for that mass kind of acknowledgement of what's going on. But NFTs, I think, as we all know, transfer into a ton of different mechanisms. And real estate is the very bottom of the barrel for all those things. I mean, you can talk about IDs and health records and everything else. But yeah, I found this document. I'm going to post it into this thread as a message. And that's really all that I wanted to say. It's the timeline is not 2021 for mass adoption. All the things we're seeing right now, all the projects, and a lot of them will fail, but those failures are necessary to make the succession of where we all understand and where we know this space is going to go actually occur. So I just, I think that these spaces are great. I wanted to say thanks to Yoke, thanks to Karma, thanks to everybody that are doing these things, and I'm glad I could hop in. So I'll just listen, and I'll try to post this if I can. Thanks to X Rooms. Yep.
Hey, so King Solomon, if you're talking Alex Pentland from MIT Media Lab, right?
Yep.
So I was talking earlier about complexity theory and all of this. He's big into it. He gets it. Totally gets it.
Oh, 1,000%. The thing that really screws me up a lot of the time is that people will ask me about assets or things that I've seen. And let me eliminate the past 2 to 4 weeks of my life trying to launch a project, because I haven't been able to do anything besides that. Even besides that, it's if somebody asks me about something, they're like, hey, have you looked into this? Or do you understand this? It's yes, I've seen the names, I've seen the projects, but it's so difficult to maintain everything because there's so much going on. So I've tried to, when I do my best in this space, I keep things as simple as possible. And when I keep things as simple as possible, with XRP or with Hedera Hashgraph or with a lot of assets that I just believe in with utility, I just step back and understand the big picture. And the Alex Pentland stuff, I know I did a deep dive on this dude. He released this document May 4th, 2021. He worked with Ripple all the way back, and I think it was 2016, 2017 timeframe. And I did a little mini deep dive on him, and all the shit he's been doing is very tied into what's going on. He gets it, and I agree 1,000%. That was the mindset that I got as well. This dude fucking gets it 1,000%. He knows where it's going, and it's not this cycle. It's not next cycle. It is the next 10 to 20 years to 25 years, maybe 30 at the very most, where every single thing transitions over into DLT blockchain, maybe some new mechanisms, and that's it. I mean, that is where we are going, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's just, when do we get there?
I mean, it'll be a bumpy ride, but I couldn't agree more. And when you were saying going from, how did you phrase it, from like distributed ledger to interledger?
He talks his document, oddly enough, and I'm sure that he knows what the interledger protocol is. His document is literally titled, and the last thing that I could find with him working with Ripple was like 2018. His document from this year is literally titled "From the Internet to the Internet," or "From Internet to Interledger." So,
well, dude, I'm pretty sure. So Bill Gates popped up around Ripple in 2015. That might be when Pentland showed up too. And then that's when they kind of got quiet on Codius, and all of a sudden Interledger popped up. And Interledger is one of a couple of like the key strategic moves that Ripple has made that were, for me, mind-blowing. And like, I'm not that easily mind-blown.
yeah.
And like, holy shit. Once you went, that made the quote Internet of Value concept of like, oh, you mean there's going to be tons of these networks, and they're all going to be good at different things. Just like there's a whole economy with a bunch of companies, and all the different companies are good at different things.
Yep.
Like,
I think the smartest thing that Ripple could have ever done is gift the interledger protocol to the W3C, essentially. Because that allows for an agnostic, transfer of value protocol that will exist, not operating within borders or value mechanisms. So it was like, to me, like a shot, seeing something like that being developed, and it's still obviously being developed and utilized. It's always referenced in any document that you will read based on interoperability mechanisms. And there's a handful of them at this point in time. Hyperledger is always involved. There's 2 or 3 others that I always see. But it's a genius move, because it's like, okay, let's develop this and let's just push it out freely into the market, and let's allow everything to be transferred in an agnostic way, and let's see what asset can be utilized best within that agnostic value transfer ecosystem where everything's interoperable. And I think I still keep going back to the XRP aspect as far as that's concerned, and that's why I'll never just sell all my XRP. I think that everything, I'll leave it at this. Like, the SEC didn't sue Ripple for no reason. Like, it's the company that is building out the mechanisms to literally shake the system up entirely. XRP is the asset that can facilitate utility within these things that Ripple and other institutions and other organizations and everything else is building upon. XRP is the asset that can be utilized best within an agnostic, fully decentralized bridging type world that we're all going towards, at least in my opinion.
No, I think you're 100% right. I'm surprised. I just followed you. I'm surprised. I don't know why I had to. You know what you're talking about.
Don't worry about it.
Oh, you just gave me so much to say. Yeah. So basically, the idea, it's almost in parallel with the idea of like no incentive is the best incentive. It's like no ledger is the best ledger, and interledger protocol has no ledger. We were talking about this last night. Like, and I'm communicated with a couple of the interledger protocol is developed as is. It's still in its infancy. But I've communicated with a couple of folks that are working on creating like a tier 1 ILP connector, which would be like analogous to a tier 1 ISP provider in the information internet. And I don't know if you know this, but I think it was about 3 years ago, basically every browser, so Chrome, whatever they call Microsoft's Internet Explorer or Edge, or I forget what the hell it's called now, and Safari and Mozilla, like all the major browser providers agreed to integrate interledger protocols into the browser. So like it's already game set match.
Yeah, the most interesting thing to me is like I know that we look at these things like, and I know like the XRPL with kind of the NFT ecosystem, and I know Yo can speak much more on this than I can, but like I don't think that Interledger Protocol is in its infancy at this point in time. I think that we're alluded to maybe believing that based on what we publicly see. But if these banks, all the large banking institutions are basically putting out what I see from interoperability mechanisms with these institutions and what they're putting out, they're only listing, and they're consistently listing like 3, 4, maybe 5. I'm not saying in 2 to 3 years or maybe even less time than that we don't see more. But if they're listing these things, like there was a dude in my chat that doesn't have a lot of followers, and it's like you take everything with a grain of salt. But just common sense would tell me any bank that is testing out RippleNet, any bank that is testing out the Interledger Protocol on their own, because I believe it's its own thing, has certainly probably tested XRP. We just can't see that, and that's fine with me. I don't mind not seeing that, but all these assets have been tested. These banks can't build and facilitate innovation on their own. Otherwise, they would have done it, 20, 30 years ago. They would have removed themselves from the SWIFT system and made things more efficient, where they can cut their back end and front end costs and overhead and all that stuff and just make more money. It's really crazy though. And I'm curious to see where it goes. So like for me, my mindset from a utility standpoint, and I'm certainly willing to, it is gambling if you're buying things that I don't like. If I'm buying things that I don't think have utility, from a utility standpoint, like there's assets that I will just hold confidently because I believe they are actual investments in the future of where finance is going to go. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but at least I've seen the information about those assets, and XRP is one of those. And some of these NFT projects within the XRPL are going to be the NFT projects that literally potentially can change the world. It's not going to be all of them, but it takes all of them to get to those few that can change the world, in my opinion. So,
yeah, I think all use cases for NFTs are really creative, and art is also like the first use case. And you can see OpenSea co-opting art and making billions now. And I don't know. I feel like the sooner that Silicon Valley gets into other avenues for NFTs, the better. So I'm all for like new creative and uses.
I guess I have a question for you, Yolk. So we have a lot of projects like, and I agree, most of them are based on art right now. And it's weird because it's like we're in this new kind of era where like I think that like if I were to just look at art and the value based on art, I personally would be like, I don't see this being a sustainable thing. But I also, and that's just my opinion, but I also think that it's a mechanism to get where this space is going to go eventually. And some of these projects, just with a generative art type mint, are going to be able to do so many more things that don't just deal in art at some point in the future. And that's what's really interesting to me. So,
I mean, yeah, the code bases that are built to support the art are going to be pivoted into other types of rights. That makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah, I agree 1,000%. It's kind of like the landing page of the full actual like platform that is going to be built. And I think that landing page is like, it's probably a really bad phraseology, but like kind of like the thing where the community is huge. Number one, having kind of that feeling of ownership within community and having decent art that you're willing to support, but then the ones that, and we need all of them to enable the ones that are going to make it. But I agree, pivoting based on whatever happens regulatory wise or whatever happens blockchain and DLT wise about how this space goes. I mean, that's going to be huge, and I think that there's going to be projects that are able to do that. And the ones, we're so early in this space with NFTs, especially with like the XRPL. Like I even look at like Hedera Hashgraph, which is why I tried to be involved in both platforms with NFTs. Some of these platforms and some of these projects within these ecosystems are going to do insane things in the next 2 to 3 years. It's just which ones do it. So,
hi everybody. Sorry, just want to say
What's up?
I want to ask a question to Shane and Yoke, and thanks, Mr. International, for making this room. Just got a question, guys. Do you think the bottom is in for the cryptos?
Yeah, before we get to that,
So, hold on. I have kind of a rule for these spaces. We don't talk price. We don't talk current events, more or less. I like to keep it educational about the technology and the future of the markets, and that's
Can I ask something quickly? Sorry, guys. So Solomon, I got introduced to you through the Jungle Freak AMA. I guess it was like 3 weeks ago. So I've been following you since, and I really appreciate all your input, and I guess all your standpoint pretty much on crypto and I guess NFTs in general. Now, there's a few things I want to ask you guys. The first thing is, in terms of NFTs, I don't know. Sorry, I jumped on a little bit late. I don't know if you guys have seen, but Nike just acquired Artifact, which I think is maybe one of the biggest acquisitions and I guess the biggest news in the last few weeks in terms of like the NFT space. The fact that Nike just acquired maybe one of the biggest projects generically in terms of like the NFT space is nuts. So Nike's in it, everyone's in it, people are following suit. And I think that's, sorry guys, a little bit nervous, but I think that's like huge news. And on top of that, I want to ask you in terms of Hedera. So I've done a lot of research in terms of HBAR. I know that the Gossip protocol is probably one of the most efficient and secure protocols out there. Proof of stake, proof of work, those are all great. But in terms of, I think, efficiency and scalability, coming from a programmer myself, I think Hedera has probably the best place in terms of crypto to sustain itself and maybe grow in terms of users, use cases, and hopefully financially it will grow in value. Now, my question is, Hedera, why is Hedera still where it is right now? And I know that there's a lot of people who are putting money into other coins just because they're pumping. And a lot of people don't have actually knowledge of what is, I guess.
All right, I can answer. And I think the answer, first and foremost, is, this is a Ripple Interledger XRP Internet of Value Flare type Sologenic Songbird chat. I will say thank you first and foremost for, I haven't done anything. If you follow me for 3 weeks, I haven't done anything in the past 3 weeks to make anybody follow me. I've literally been trying to launch a project, and it's been nothing. I will say, if you're interested in what Hedera Hashgraph is doing, really quick, because I don't want to step in this space, because that's, to me, this isn't the space for that. They have tons of spaces. Follow HBarbarian on Twitter. Follow HBar. I think it's HBar to the moon, HBar Spaces. They all do really, really great AMAs. I'm not going to sit here and speak on value. I will say, as the last thing on Hedera Hashgraph, it's one of the assets that I will just continuously hold because I think that it has a massive potential for value proposition. And in regards to the Nike acquisition, gigantic. We've seen Adidas do something similar to that very recently, as far as like getting integrated. This is just kind of like it's a drop in the bucket, though. I mean, really think about it. Like, and I will be remiss in saying that, like, I would put, and this is just for me, I would put Hedera Hashgraph semi on par with what the XRPL is capable of, but they're entirely different. So it's like, which ones make it? Hedera Hashgraph has similar kind of like centralized mechanisms from the onset, but I think the XRPL is very decentralized at this point in time, and the speed and efficiency of the XRPL at this point in time as well. It's like, what are you willing to bet on? And I'm willing to bet on the XRPL because the innovation occurring right now is so new that the value proposition for me personally is insane. And I feel the same way about a couple of different ecosystems. But yeah, if you want to check out Hedera, go into Hedera ecosystems. They have tons of Twitter chats. That's and price action.
Okay.
You don't really necessarily have to worry about price action if you're an investor, and if you're not buying parabolic peaks or whatever. And I don't know if we're there yet or not. But for me with XRP, I'm comfortable holding it right now, regardless of what happens. And I will be comfortable holding it in 5 years, regardless of what happens. I feel similar about Songbird. I feel the similar way about Flare and Hedera. So that's what you deal in. If you want to deal in speculative investments, you might make it, but it's still gambling. But and I've done it. But yeah, that's it. So sorry, man. I don't want to cut you off. This is just not a Hedera.
No, it's right. It's sorry about that. I have one more question about the artifact. But if you guys want to cut me off and want to go on about XRP, no problem. Just let me know.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of a different thing. So for me, I would really, this isn't my space.
Yeah.
I would like to let Karma kind of host this about Ripple, Interledger, XRPL projects.
Well, I mean, look, it's an Internet of Value thing, right?
Okay,
so
yeah.
I have a focus on, what the subject of the, but yeah, go ahead.
Well, it's a valid point, because that's a gigantic acquisition as well, and it kind of leads people to believe what's coming. So yeah, go ahead, Shane. Sorry.
Yeah, no. So it's actually a question about NFTs more general, and it's sort of the route and the strategic route that Artifact took here, and I don't know if it's the best route to take. And that route is you mint something, and you mint it, I guess, in like a Dutch auction or something like that. It goes through, but you keep it on the market, secondary market, without reveal for a week, right? When you do that, that sort of fluctuates. I guess it goes above mint, goes below mint, goes above mint. The thing is, the owners take royalties on all those. And we know, and people who know, who've been in the NFT space for a long time, once reveal happens, the commons go below what the pre-reveals were going for, and the rares go above. Now, I think that's a strategic part on the owners or the people who created the project in order to get as much, I guess, value or profit from the pre-reveal as possible. And then the secondary market follows suit. Now, I think that's sort of an iffy subject, because if you are keeping a pre-reveal on the secondary market for so long to keep up the hype and to keep those royalties, and then after reveal, do that, and then Artifact, I guess, drops the Nike thing, which will, I guess, boost it above what it was before. I just think that they promise people, and I was not invested in this project at all. I've just been following it. They promised people they would reveal the project, I guess, 1 or 2 days after the vials were sent out. Then they waited a week. And I think that's a very touchy subject, because I think they did that to get as much royalties as possible.
What's interesting to me, is, I a lot of people are kind of I can get kind of, and Yoke is much better probably phrased in talking about this than I am, but I look at the XRPL NFT projects that are out there right now, where a lot of them are not revealed. I think you could look at it in a way where it's kind of a downfall, but you could look at it in a way where also it's an immense differentiation of a value proposition and how you roll out things that you're doing. I'm not going to sit here and touch base on if somebody's going to reveal it prior to or after and where the royalties go. I don't even think the royalty aspect exists right now. Are there royalties on anything right now, Yoke? Is it Elysian?
Yeah, we were talking about this earlier, and I actually was learning some stuff from Yoke and Xroom with the XLS20. One of you guys want to speak up, because it's right there. It's all in there.
Yeah, there's secondary reveals do exist. I think if you're talking about reveals, if you see a collection mint all the rares, there's less likely that people will get it. But I also feel like the the late reveal is a legacy effect of high gas fees and trying to make sure everybody can, mint something and not like go crazy about it and not need to use like a whitelisting or allow or, it comes down to like fees at the end of the day.
That's what I think. I think the only reason to have a pre-reveal like that is for gas fees and to mint something. Other than
are there like not secondary, but like aftermarket royalties that exist right now within the XRPL? Meaning if I'm launching a project, or is this in discussions to do? If I'm launching a project, and with every sale that I make from the project, I get a 5% royalty. But let's say that I'm Bob, and the person that everybody else, 10,000 people are Alice, and every Alice sends it to Jan or sells it to Jan.
10%.
Are there kickbacks again after that to Alice, like the secondary buyer from my project? Or how is that going to be rolled out? Or is that going to be an option? I haven't looked into it, but
there's fees and if you set them when you issue them, or you set them on your account as the issuer. But
what I'm asking is, as the issuer, I can get royalties, but I guess this deals in a secondary marketplace is probably more of the question. Like,
yes, the secondary marketplace. We were talking about that earlier, and that's where I was impressed. That's one of the things I've learned in this chat is, and Yoke, take over because you were the one explaining it. But it seemed like a quality and out thing, which is maybe an older version of effectively the same logic flow. But yeah, and secondary market's the right word. Go speak up.
Yeah, sorry. I mean, it's every time it transfers hands and there's like a few operations to do that sort of transaction. And you put the price in when you so you offer up, I want to buy this extra room you want to buy this extra room from Yoke for what, I don't know, 500 XRP. So you put that up, the offer goes out, I accept it. I see it. I accept it. I get 500 XRP. The transaction costs 500 XRP. And let's say there's like a 1% fee on that. So the 5 XRP goes to the minter of it. And an artist can have a separate minting address set, or an issuer can say the person the wallet that issues that NFT can say that this is minted by this artist, but the minting address is this, and you can you basically have a way to dereference it, so you can have like a customer primary wallet and then like something on a platform, or you can do other interesting things, or you can not use that and just like go direct from the minting thing. But the point is like it's just pointing where does that payment go for that fee on the actual mint, which is set on that object. So every time it's transferred, they can get up to 99.999 repeating royalty, but people are going to set it to what people.
This is more of like a marketplace question, I guess, for me, because I'll just in layman's terms for like anybody listening, like what I've been alluded to from 3 different lawyers that I've talked to, and this isn't set in stone because we haven't had anything set in stone yet. If you launch a project, you are more than welcome to set royalties on every resale of what you've initially sold and what you've initially provided. It gets a little bit hairy where it's like, okay, I launched a project, all 100 of these things have sold, and then there's like retransfers, and I'm not the only one getting the royalty based on those additional sales, but the secondary person that bought my project initially and then sells it again is getting royalties back. Like that's what OpenSea got into, which I think is why the SEC was looking into them. Like I was alluded to the fact that might be a little bit of a hairy thing. I'm not sure if that's set in stone or not. That was kind of my question, though, and I'm not sure where that goes. So,
no, this would be different.
What do you mean by royalties? Do you mean like let's say I buy an X room, right? And X room has, let's say, a 1% secondary market fee fee. So, when I sell it for $100, Xroom gets $1. Is my $99 royalty or?
No. That's you selling the product that you bought from Xrooms, and then Xrooms gets a royalty back. I'm talking about secondary sales royalties, where like Xrooms gets a 5% royalty, but I believe that there was a way on OpenSea with some projects, and maybe it's just OpenSea as a whole, where you can set your own royalty for reselling, where if anybody else, after they buy it from you, sells it again, you would gain royalties based on their sales, which is I've been alluded to that happening, and that gets into a lot of different issues security-wise from my understanding, because you can incentivize the project launchers could incentivize people to shill and resell and do all sorts of things that
brings in. So if you go back to your Sandy Pentland and complexity theory and all of that, you're talking about, so the first degree, second degree, third degree, you can go out to infinity degree, right? But that probably would be an interesting legal question. So the first degree royalty is to the creator, right? So Xrooms gets a 1% cut with in whatever the liquidity of the art is.
They could set that to whatever they want to set that to. It doesn't need to be. They could do whatever because they're the creators.
Yeah, that's probably very legally established. The second degree, I mean, hell, you can go to the third degree royalties. That's a very interesting idea. I have not heard that. That makes sense.
Just out of a question. I don't know if there's any programmers out here or anyone who any blockchain developers, but how easy is that to implement? Like to the nth degree of royalties? Like is smart contracts able to do those?
Well, once we have hooks, and Yoke, I'll shut up in a second. Once we have, because you're better than I am. Once we have hooks, that would be easily doable. That might very well be doable now. I'll shut up, but I can definitely say that's doable once we have hooks.
Yeah, I just picture that as like infinite amount of for loops just going through, and I don't know if any developers here, Solomon, if you guys can speak on that, but is that even implemented these days? Just continue, I guess, cascaded royalties, quote unquote, if that makes sense.
If you could, cascade them, just like you said, and wrapped each one into the next, it wouldn't be so technically difficult. But we're talking about something that's not the use case. So it just goes to the original minter. And then if the second person sells it again, the original minter still gets the royalty. But if they were to potentially get a royalty, it'd be like they made something else out of it. I don't know. You're creating a derivative at that point, I think. And I don't want to get into too hairy about that, but I also think yield farming, NFTs, and staking. Those are problematic things in my head, but I don't know enough about this shit.
So there's give me 1 second and I'll shut up. There's a term called fractal payments, and that's what we're discussing. That's the term for this concept. Or cascading payments, that's another good way of phrasing it. And this is going to be a bit, so one of the big use cases for blockchain as a big picture is supply chain management, which will end up using fractal payments. So this concept we're discussing, it's going to happen. And one of the places I think it'll probably happen first is GitHub. So like if I have a repository and I have a couple dependencies, right, and I make some money, well, I should compensate the dependencies that I'm, using. And that's basically the idea of fractal payments.
Well, that's interesting. You're adding value, though, versus just like taking a thing and reselling it, in my head. or you could say remixing, or
well, there's all sorts of fucking decentralized GitHubs right now, and a lot of them have kind of fell through the cracks. So it's like, sorry, yo, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, I think remixing, adding value, or like these, well, the gamification things, I'm interested in seeing how that works out. But it's just like, I think
Well, I think you want to avoid the pyramid scheme stuff, but the value added is legitimate. And, don't forget all this stuff's going to get taxed. So that's where your value added tax, your VAT, comes in.
I do not disagree. There is real value. It's just like who can outperform the. It's like games that are, so like there's these like competitions where you can like basically program. It's like every year that like you can program these like basically these bots, and then like everybody competes to see how well they can do in this simulation. There's a lot of these different kinds of things, but basically it's like this. Now you can have this one place competition arena where who can make the best trading bots, who can get the best connection. And I mean, I don't know. For me, it's like now we're going away from censorship resistance, and like it's just like this fact of nature of basically you still have to do interactions with the ledge or the smart contracts. So I don't know. You have to move things around, and then you can outplay things. I don't know. It's interesting, but I totally sidetracked here. The fractal payments thing for me for remixing stuff, totally could see, like, for me, I'm watching in the background, just have like Twitch on all the time. A big thing for them now is like reacting to YouTube content, which apparently you can find anything on YouTube. So they've been watching MasterChef. And imagine if just by pixels being on my screen, MasterChef knew that I was watching and got a piece of the pie, right? YouTube necessarily is hosting it, but they're just one of many that could be hosting it and indexing it. I don't know. It's interesting.
What really fucking pisses me off is that, like, if you go into a lot of different NFT chats with all these communities, it's like, hey, this collection of X amount of this is just gonna be this metaverse in 5 years. And I'm not even just talking about the XRPL community, like, because the XRP community, like, having these discussions, like, these are discussions where, like, you're actually flushing out how this is actually going to work. I don't know. I guess it's a mix, because, like, one of the biggest mistakes I made during this cycle was just like thinking that the herd can't be right. But then, like, the herd was obviously right with certain things, like even with meme coins and some of these just nonsensical type things that have come out. The biggest thing for me, like, with whatever is going to flush value out are problems that can be solved in very easy and efficient ways based on DLT, crypto, blockchain, everything else. Kind of the decentralized GitHub mechanism, like, I get it. There's been projects that have tried to do that. There's been task book projects that have tried to do it.
That's where the economics comes in. At the end of the day, the economics is gonna flush out, as you said.
Well, I think it's a mix. I don't think it's just economics. I think that it's a mix between ease of usability, like UX, and like the ability to get involved, or to be incentivized, or to care about being involved in something. Because if economics were the only thing we're dealing in right now, then a lot of people wouldn't be paying $200 in gas fees to buy bullshit on Ethereum. There's a lot of different mechanisms involved. It's not just economics. It's about usability. It's about
but
you know what I mean, though. Yeah.
Could I add one sentence?
Yeah.
Just Git itself is decentralized. Like, you could take a Git repository and clone it to GitLab. The reason GitHub is working and most successful is, like, yes, just like you said, the UX, ease of use, starring things. It was fun to see what people were starring. I mean, if you're a nerd who likes to code, you were on GitHub, in my opinion. And that, like, look at what came out of that. You got, like, the unicorn Web3 shit. Like, that's all because of awesome. I'm gonna get too down in the rabbit hole, but, like,
get nerdy, bro. Get as nerdy as you could possibly get.
I mean, the reason frameworks were successful were based on number of stars in the like every framework that was successful like got a lot of traction was like how many stars they get and as they got in Hacker News that day. And it's just like it is tied to like actual utility, and it's tied to like the tastes and aesthetics of these, you know, a bunch of nerds who like to watch cartoons and anime and have happy thoughts. Like, I don't know. I feel like GitHub really enabled that because of, yeah, ease of use. And it was like, yeah, clone anything. I mean, GitLab didn't exist. I don't know, probably later on, but I mean, everybody was using SVN until GitHub came out.
Yeah, sorry, just to say something. I feel like we're on a trend now where most things are trying to become decentralized, and we're gonna sort of reach a point where everything is trying to become decentralized, where it just plateaus, and we realize what industries or I guess ecosystems can actually be sufficient and I guess survive as a decentralized company or ecosystem as opposed to those that can't. For example, I don't know if you guys have heard about D-Travel, which is trying to be like the decentralized Airbnb. I'm watching that closely. I want to see where that goes, but there's companies like that, like Airbnb, that can become decentralized, where everyone can own a token and become part of that DAO of that company. I want to see where that goes, but right now, in my mind, I think decentralization is becoming sort of a big topic and word, just like the metaverse is, and a lot of things are going to become or try to become decentralized until we realize those that actually can sustain themselves as a decentralized company or ecosystem as opposed to those that can't. And I think that's the same with crypto and altcoins. You see those that plateau, those that go through the bear market and pursue, and those that just fall apart. And I think that's the same with decentralization. I think everyone's going to, look at decentralization as like the next step. And those industries or those companies or those ecosystems that can, actually become decentralized and it makes sense, those are going to pursue, those are going to, flourish and be successful. And those that try, and I know like the metaverse that like, try to go into these like big pumped markets and they don't do well, like we'll see what happens. But I think decentralization is an incredible and an evolutionary technology that will for sure bleed into a lot of our industries. But we'll see. Yeah.
I've kind of like, go ahead, Karma. I don't want to interrupt you, bro. But I have a lot of thoughts on that. But go ahead, Karma.
Yeah, I'll be brief. So basically, when there's a chart, if you Google like centralized, decentralized, distributed, and then this is like big picture, not this like bigger than Earth, bigger than the solar system, like universe, right? And systems go through this flow where this is back to the Sandy Pentland complexity, whatever, that kind of thinking, right? So the system will go from, let's just pretend the starting point is centralized. Then it expands to distributed. And the reason why is like in physics, right? It's hard to keep energy around because, the second law of thermodynamics, yada, yada, and entropy, grows and energy dissipates. And it takes a lot of energy to keep a system centralized. So as that energy dissipates, the system splinters into decentralized, and then, that takes energy as well. And so then it goes to distributed. But then at some point, there's some efficiency gains to going back to re-centralizing the system, right?
1,000%.
Yeah. So it's a cycle, and and this is a long-term cycle. This isn't like, from this week. And so it cycles. Anyway, I'll shut up.
No, I mean, like I agree with you. I mean, I think that there's this whole mindset around DAO and all these other things right now. Like, that's great, and I think that might be the next. Like, we've seen the illusions of what DAOs, like decentralized autonomous organizations, et cetera, can be within the next cycle. We haven't really necessarily seen that yet. I get back into like human actions when you talk in those. I'm a bigger fan of talking about interoperability and efficiency than I am about DAO and just
that brings in networks of networks. Your multiplex,
yeah, but I just don't like. I mean, not to get political, but I mean, decentralization essentially is we're talking about. I don't want to say communism, but I mean, like that. It does just it's like I don't know how that works because people are always going to be incentivized. So one of the big aspects of a DAO is you get voting rights on how a platform is built, et cetera, et cetera. Why wouldn't, if I was a whale, why wouldn't I be incentivized to buy more voting rights and to control how a platform goes? I'm just more, I think it's where the space goes. We talk about decentralization. I mean, that's what the whole aspect of Bitcoin and the whole mindset around Bitcoin is it's decentralized, which is complete bullshit, as we know, based on the incentivization from, electric companies and miners and everything else. But what's the best way to get away from that across the board? I don't really think that there is, because you're always going to have people. I mean, I think that human beings inherently are capitalist minded, where they want to gain power in any way that they possibly can. DAOs are great, but DAOs also deal in voting rights, deal in reputation, deal in all sorts of things to give you more voting rights. I think maybe there's a mechanism to make it work, but I don't think that we've seen it yet. And it's like we're dealing back in like we're literally reinventing society in the digital age. So how do you reinvent it in a way where it makes it just work for everybody? You're still probably going to have people that are a little bit more in control of the voting rights and how platforms go. Maybe that phraseology still stays with, decentralized and fair participation, and everything else, which it still is. But there's still going to be levels of power within DAOs. It's just going to happen, in my opinion. And I don't know how it can't happen.
So actually, that's interesting because someone actually brought up this idea the other day, and I don't know if you guys have heard of this idea before, but like an artist, for example, an up-and-coming artist, who instead of going to some sort of production, Universal or some production company, they go to a DAO. They tokenize themselves. They sell those tokens off. People all have a share, and they all have a say, I guess, in where this artist is going. And they're all technically a part of the production company that's pushing this artist towards, I guess, popularity and success. So the question is, like, at that point, the artist will want to, sort of take some charge. And if he doesn't have say in where he's going, and it's the DAO that's controlling that all, how do you really fractionalize that DAO at a point when there is some sort of conflict or maybe some other roadblock that won't allow I guess that specific community, that specific project to flourish? You know what I mean? Who has say if everyone has, again, Solomon, like you said, it is some sort of communism type of ideology in a capitalist environment, right? Because like you aren't technically, everyone has the same say. Everyone is technically in a communist
it's that's probably a really shitty way to phrase it, but I
know, but like it's true because like communism is really just equal share amongst everyone, right?
That's the same thing as a DAO. I mean, that's what a lot of people are talking about.
100%. But it's like a communism mentality within a capitalism environment. Like you're all in a DAO to make money and like do well. So like in a sense, you're all like in a.
Well, you're in a DAO not just to make money, but you're in a DAO
to benefit each other, and of course,
to have voting rights and do all sorts of things. This is and Karma. I'm sorry, I'm done in 30 seconds. I mean, the biggest thing to me is like a lot of these mechanisms are mechanisms that are being flushed out in siloed ecosystems. So like I care much more about interoperability mechanisms in problems that currently exist. than I do about let's create more siloed ecosystems and call them DAOs and allow everybody to have voting rights within those ecosystems. Like I am much more. This is why, like for me, like I'm much more in tune with like the utility of like something like XRP could do to bridge value, or Hedera Hashgraph could do to kind of bridge ecosystems and do all sorts of things within those ecosystems. Like, because if somebody tries to start a DAO, like in the right way, where it's not siloed, and they're always going to be siloed within their own DAO ecosystem inherently at the onset, like, how do you make that fair? Because people call Bitcoin decentralized, and it's not. Ethereum is not decentralized. Like, there are going to be people that are incentivized to buy more, even within a true DAO. Unless you cap things, people are going to be incentivized to not necessarily buy more for profit, but it could be anything, not profit, but maybe voting rights, or maybe mechanisms of utility within that DAO that they're participating in. Like, how do you level the playing field across the board? And I think, for me, I think what XRP does is it does level the playing field, because it enables people that I don't even want to get into all that, but like it, you know, based on like liquidity and based on everything else with like these exotic corridors, it can provide people with just more empowerment based on not having to deal with bullshit fees, everything else. These are real problems. Like DAO problems are going to exist, but people, like a lot of these projects are phrasing their future around becoming a DAO. Like, how do you do that without incentivizing people to become become so fucking empowered within that DAO where it's not a fucking DAO anymore? You know what I mean? Like it keeps running through my head, and I just don't know the solution to it, because I don't. Maybe it exists somewhere.
So, Solomon, I was going to comment on the last before you said what you said, but you kind of said the same thing again. It's like effectively like if you study like art of war, like it's a new type of warfare, right? And there's always people vying and fighting for dominance and control. And depending on how the economic incentives are set up, there's some people who have a marginally greater incentive to fight for a marginally larger portion of the vote. You know, like if I've got 1% of the vote, and I double my vote, like I'm still freaking nobody, right? But if I've got, 40% of the vote and I double my vote, like, holy cow, I got 80% of control. Like that,
and that to me goes against the inherent proposition of a DAO.
Yeah,
in and of itself, because if I can purchase enough voting rights within a DAO, then it's not a DAO. It's what I want it to be, right?
Yeah, I 100% agree.
It's crazy.
And then, there was something else I was going to say. That was the main thing. I mean, if you just, I don't know, I'll shut up.
There's an artist pretty much doing that. It's called what's it called? The Most Famous Artist. He has like a TMFA DAO, essentially. And it's trying to, quote unquote, bring the art community together, but kind of going on top of what you're saying, like how many of voting rights of that DAO does the artist actually own, or X people that are close to the artist, etc. So it kind of could become centralized in that aspect.
I was actually recommended to read The Art of War by Sun Tzu, and I never did it. I should probably read it. Do we actually have it?
Read it.
My wife just screamed from the kitchen that we have it. I buy books. Like I have so many books that like I can't read them all, and I haven't had time recently. But like I am a very big book accumulator and a big reader when I can. But I mean, these are concerns. Like I don't know. Like I love listening to when Yo speaks, just because like him and I disagreed, but I like initially like because I didn't know who the fuck he was. Number one, building out XDLS 20 and everything else, and his insight into what's actually going on from like the actual real building out of these mechanisms is very interesting to me, because these are the people you need to be listening to in this space, because these are like, it's not, I've tried to enlighten myself based on people like him. Like you're not going to get insight by people telling you that XRP is going to go to $500. Those are people that are trying to make money for YouTube videos, which is why like I haven't done a video in 10 or 11 days, but like I try to find shit. Now I might be one of those people starting Wednesday where I do a video a day just because I want to go full time in crypto, but don't think that I'm going to be like putting that on my fucking profile picture when I'm doing videos. But Yolk is a very smart individual in this space, and like he's tied into these people. These are thoughts that I'm really interested in seeing, like where this space goes, because I think what Yolk, and correct me if I'm wrong, Yolk, but I think that Yolk's opinion of the NFT ecosystem within the XRPL is as much innovation as possible needs to occur to be able to flush out true utility within the ecosystem for NFTs on the XRPL. And there's no way that happens without that, because nobody has the same ideas. Some ideas are going to really work, some ideas aren't really going to work, and some ideas are going to flourish. And some of the projects that don't have the best ideas are going to do really, really, really well. But I like listening again, so I'm going to shut up. Just like Karma said, I'm going to shut up. So,
well, Yoke, I'll shut up in a second, but let me throw this just thought out there. This is a continuance of the last thing I said. What if you built a system where the governance, like to prevent, so in a non-linear way, right? So instead of somebody going from 1% to 2% versus 40% to 80%, right? What if the larger percentage of the governance or the vote you had, the more like the market so you can't just buy your way into control, like to put a backstop or a pushback against buying your way into control. What if if I've got say 1%, I can pay $100 and I can get double to 2. But if I've got 40%, I have to pay like 40,000%, and like put that on an exponential curve. And so the more like an actor in the system or the network, ledger, blockchain, whatever the hell you want to call it, the more they have, the more they have to pay to try and gain more, like control. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, I get it. I think that's a cool idea.
It is a cool. So you're basically saying like the more rights that you have within an ecosystem, the more expensive it is for you to be enabled to gain more rights. It's a really cool idea, actually.
Yeah,
That's good.
Exactly. Yeah. And you throw that on an exponential curve, and then, you can set the bar. I mean, there's different ways to, just for the sake of people used to the 51% thing, set the bar at 50%. Like the closer you get to 50%, the closer the cost to acquire more power, control, or influence approaches infinity.
You could call your layer 1 proof of authority, and and go through the. Dude, it's a really fucking cool idea. I'd like to see that like laid out in numbers, because I think that like it's impossible to sit here and be like how would that work? But the idea in itself, like make it more expensive to gain more rights, makes total sense within if you're actually trying to create a real DAO. How do you create a real DAO? Yeah. I get it. Go ahead.
Decentralization, because it makes the value of being a small player in some sense relatively stronger than being a big player.
It'd be really interesting to see, like, even if you're willing to buy more voting rights or anything like that, like even though it's more expensive, like to enable to like kick that back to like other people that are smaller than you, or like to enable like maybe new spots to open up. You can do all sorts of things within that, but that makes more sense to me than like let's create a DAO and give governance rights based on how much of my fucking token you buy. Because if you do that, then it's not a DAO. You're saying it's a DAO. But the only reason, here's the big thing. All these fucking companies are saying it's a DAO because of the fact that they're removed from the ecosystem. That doesn't make it a DAO. That just makes it a community-run capitalist, which I'm all for capitalism, by the way, capitalist type run environment where you can incentivize yourself by buying more and having more voting rights. It's just removing the entity, the business entity, which is, that to me doesn't make it a DAO. A DAO is an actual ecosystem run by the community. And fair mechanism. Vote. Like, and if you, I shouldn't be able to, within a DAO, even though a community has separated themselves from the DAO, be able to buy more voting rights in an unsustainable way and control the DAO. Then it's not a DAO. It's not a
board of directors.
Yeah, I mean that's what it is. I've actually heard, and I don't know if Yoke hasn't, but actually I know Yoke hasn't. There's a dude that I know that I won't mention, but maybe I'll DM Yoke if the conversations go further, that had a really, really interesting proposition within the XRPL and actually has some backing within that. I'm not going to sit here and say what it is, but I will DM Yoke about that. Conversations as well with like Ripple and stuff like that. So I think it might be a go, but it's actually a good idea. Like I've heard so many like ideas that weren't good ideas. The DAO aspect just really bothers me. Like, how do you get away from empowerment based on the amount of funds that you have in your wallet? You know, I don't know.
Well, I'm just going to comment two things. One issue is if you have a large player that has multiple wallets and bots, they could basically take over this situation to work around. And the second thing is, I guess one way you could cure for that is if you used a digital identifier for each person. That way you can make sure people couldn't have multiple wallets. The only problem is how do you verify the DIDs, because they're probably all going to be based on like various one government contracts. So you would probably need to still use like some third government party to have like a DID used to verify people don't have multiple wallets for this kind of DAO idea, to like restrict governance power by capital.
Wouldn't that decrease the value though as well? If someone like buys more, but they don't get like more say, let's say in a DAO, like wouldn't that decrease the value? Let's say buying a token.
The classic term for that is called cornering a market.
You know what we should all do? I've been thinking about this for a while because we've all had like Yoke and I have had disagreements, and not even anymore. I think we both semi like each other because our thought processes, but we should just start XRP3, and XRP3 is going to solve every problem in this entire space. I'm just saying, like in general, like there's so many different mechanisms that we're talking right now, and it's like I don't want to stifle innovation. XRP3 to the moon, dude.
Federated sidechain.
Fuck.
That's what it is.
There's so many like genius fucking people in this space, though. Like it's like I'm completely stupid when it comes to the development aspects, everything else. But I try to critically think about how these things may or may not succeed. Yeah. And there's such a big community, like not shillers and not saying, hey, XRP to this or XRP to this or pump watch and bullshit. Like it's like, what are we actually dealing in? We're actually dealing in like the future of finance, period. I think XRP is one of a handful of assets that, in my opinion, already has and will continue changing the entire world. So, like, building in an open ecosystem, like with people that are smart, like I would fucking love to just have a group of like 50 people or 60 people, and it flushes down to like 6-10 people that are willing to do something. Like I don't know. That's just my opinion, but. Other than that, I'm all about talking and giving opinions. Like, and I think these spaces are great. Karma. My wife made turkey chili. I do have to hop off because she's going to murder me because I've been doing this project shit for about a month straight for 15 hours a day. Thank you very much for having the space. Thank you, Yoke. Thank you, XR Shrooms, Vet, Edward, Philip, Shane, everybody that's listening. These are spaces that are very important, and I just appreciate you guys being here. So thank you guys. Appreciate it, man.
I'm not far behind you. So cook some dinner. I got a few more minutes, but you know.
My wife, I gave her, and I'll leave it with this. I will give her recipes sometimes, like that are real easy because I used to cook all the time. And I told her, like, before I walked out the kitchen, I'm like, you're completely going to shit on this recipe and make it your own, which is fine, which is exactly what we need to do in this space. You know, you get a recipe, you shit on it, you make it your own, and you make it right. And you try to just innovate within this space. So I love you guys, man. And, you know, I enjoy your conversations very much so, Yoke. Like, that's why I joined, honestly, because you were speaking. And when you spoke the first time after the bullshit that happened, which I apologize for again, fucking amazing, dude. Your insight is invaluable to this community. So anybody that's providing actual value makes sense to me, and I will talk to you guys later. All right, bye.
Hey, I have a quick question.
Yes.
I just wanted to say thank you for having me up here, and also I'm super excited for this whole space, and I'm actually getting a master's in blockchain. I just figured why not make it a career in the future because of what's going on and stuff. And I was just wondering if you guys have heard of Constellation and DAG.
I've heard of Constellation. It was a fast follow to Ripple's Interledger protocol. So basically, the key concept there is like a network of networks, and that's about all I know.
Yeah. On top of that, I've heard of them. I know the YouTuber in the community, Kevin Cage. He touches a little bit about those.
Yeah.
On top of that, I'm not too familiar.
I was just wondering if anyone knew much about them because I did a little deep dive and I am fascinated. I mean, they're partners with Amazon Web Services, U.S. Air Force. I mean, they are really doing some stuff. They're like, I would like say there's a bunch of like utility cryptos, right? And they're all boats. And I saw this a meme the other day. And then DAG or Constellation was like the ocean. Like it's kind of like a connector. Yeah, network of networks. But I don't know. It reminds me of Quant, but Quant's its own thing, and their partners. And then I don't know. I went down a rabbit hole and was just wondering if anyone else also went on that rabbit hole.
I was gonna suggest people check out Nouns DAO as like sort of like a emblematic sort of DAO that's currently very successful in my opinion of just like people taking, I mean, they're free. It's basically like a generative art that makes a new art piece every day. And then there's a DAO that controls like basically the, I don't know really what it controls, but there's still Nounsters, or like basically the people who own like a big portion of it, but they're basically what or somebody was referring to as board of directors. But I think there's a need to like, you can't just like let it go potentially without, those really restricted rules that are very prone to attack vectors. Like you can't prove that it's a single person owning all that or controlling people to do that sort of thing. Like they can actually buy in their behalf, so it's like cheaper. But I don't know. It's like you have to cultivate it, and then maybe it can get more decentralized. I think they're figuring it out as they go along, but it's pretty cool. With that, I actually need to get some stuff done, so I'm gonna probably just move into listening and listen to all you guys. Thanks for everybody.
Thanks for hopping up, Yoke. Yeah. Yeah, so if anybody, I was speaking earlier, has any questions regarding NFTs and the XRP ledger, feel free to come on up and chat. And then, yeah.
So I'm actually doing some research on fresh water. And there's a company it's a stock company, and they're actually one of the first companies I think that I've seen try to turn fresh water or services or their products, their machines, and like by the gallon per gallon into an NFT, like a global marketplace. So it kind of freaks me out that they're doing that.
You're talking about
also,
actual water?
Yeah, like fresh water. Yeah.
Interesting.
And I'm just like, holy crap, what is going on? So like, there's this. Everyone's focusing on time, celebrity music, art, and metaverse stuff. But in the real world, like they're starting to NFT and like real stuff, like electricity probably, and also,
exactly. It's essentially anything that is non-tangible. So art is just the main big area that it's popping off in. Like you could go anything from marriage licenses to cars to houses, etc. It's we're very early in this space, but it's just cool to see it in art, especially. It just helps with the Web 3.0 or Web 3 aspect from my point of view as an artist. But from going into what you're talking about, there's endless possibilities. It's kind of amazing, and it's really exciting to see what else creates in this space.
It's definitely it's gonna keep growing, and I'm just like, I'm happy we're all here. It's still early because that company's 4 cents, and like I'm just fascinated that it's just such a large market for like water and NFTs in general. And the metaverse,
yeah, everybody needs water.
Can you imagine like having your own like little like artworks and stuff in this virtual world, and then you could just, isn't that what the whole purpose is? Kind of showing it off and just like walking around.
You mean metaverse?
Yeah, like kind of just like once you have your own little house in your metaverse and your little land, a plot of land, you can just be like, yeah, I got this kitten. Look, check it out. It's on the wall.
Yeah, I'm really fascinated by how much people are excited about the metaverse, and about the whole concept of it. Like it's it's like people. It's this this Gauss distribution where people first they don't nothing about it, and they're like, oh, metaverse is so nice. Then you have the middle part, the most of the people with critical questions, and then the most knowledge of people also get excited about it. And this is something I found myself also into it, because first people like, if you don't really understand it, just if you think about I'm just interested in owning land. Land in crypto, bullish, and then you have a whole middle part of people thinking about it, thinking how we can get these things moving and whatnot. And then you have people that are really advanced in it, and they get also excited about it. But I'm still really fascinated by how much people actually really excited about it, because it started with like you own land online. I mean, this is not a new concept, right? You have it in a lot of games, but that you really own it, right? So nobody can pull the rug out of it under you. But yeah,
I got a question. Might be a little bit off topic from what you guys are talking about right now, but like in reference to,
I don't know if you guys can hear me.
Yeah, we can do.
Yep.
Can you guys hear me?
My phone's acting up. I'm trying to approve some people who are requesting to speak.
They are up here. So Mark Crypto is speaking.
Okay.
I've never got.
Doesn't on my phone. It doesn't say he's approved yet. Oh, there it goes.
Yeah, we'll go from Mar, and then next up, El Dorado.
Cool. So, like, I know there's a lot of hype around, like, a Web3, and I've been seeing in some blogs.
Systems definitely lots of latency.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so that's kind of exactly where I was going. Like, as far as, like, bandwidth issues, like, are there any projects that are kind of focused on bandwidth issues? or maybe new types of protocols to interact with bandwidth?
Is it not going yet?
You hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. Karma,
Yeah,
I think you just have to hop out or whatever, but because you're just, I don't know, miles
Yeah, I think
behind
the
us.
host is having some issues.
Yeah.
Is that better?
No, we can hear you perfectly. Like, I can hear you perfect, but Karma is like, he's like 20 seconds behind us, I think. I don't know.
Gotcha.
Yeah, because of the regarding the question, actually, you mind bandwidth in terms of can you specify that, like transaction per second or what?
So like for example, have any of you guys heard of a company called Centivate? It's a token.
No.
It's Centivate, and basically they're trying to reframe or replace the HTTP protocol into something called UDP, which is like a universal protocol that, because and I guess this is somewhat speculative, and maybe it has even more to do with just latency, but like the bandwidth that the world has to offer as far as how like we're moving into like this new digital world, and the amount of bandwidth that is available to people through like kind of the devices, not only the devices that we use, because obviously we have 5G and they're going to kick up that frequency, and everything is going to be on that 60 gigahertz frequency. But as far as like the protocols that we use to interact with the web, like HTTP, is not going to be sustainable for the future. And that's what one of those companies that I found called Centivate is focused on. I haven't seen any other projects. I've researched and looked everywhere to see if there's any other projects that are even focused on this problem, and I haven't seen anybody anywhere. And they're actually getting some really big partnerships with like NTTP telecommunications, and their whole team is like cyber intelligence, Navy SEALs. There's a company called Templar Titans that was like the first people that were like on the scenes at 9/11. Like their crew is insane,